Wait.
No, I don't think it's going to go off.
Well, good.
Yeah.
What would you do if it did?
We would be dead. But now we know we won't be.
All right. Well, thank you.
When we starting?
I think we're starting now.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to Star Wars Wave Squadron Badonkagonk show. Aaron, what has happened since last Badonkagonk show?
We read a book.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess I listened to a book.
You listened to a book?
That has happened.
Uh-huh.
What else has been going on? Yeah, I don't know. There's currently strike things going on.
There is a strike thing going on.
There is SAG and SAG-AFTRA and WGA are currently striking as well.
Yeah.
So there's definitely been a possibly going to be a postponement of anything from the new Ahsoka series that's coming.
Yeah.
Just because of that, but we are still covering the books, still talking about like Star Wars and lore and things too. But we may also dive a little bit more, especially today, into some legend conversations.
Some
too.
legends and some literature. Not struck work, so no movies or television, but we're going to be jumping into the legends and literature. Yeah. So we have a book review for Thrawn Treason coming up, and we also have a new game coming up that we made up.
Yes.
That's called Star Wars Legends or Myths.
Which will be fun.
Yeah.
I don't know that much as far as legends go.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where we are, or where I am, I guess, with some of that information. Or what
I
think is
designed the game so that I'm so glad you don't know more than you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really read too many of Legends books. It was a handful. I could probably
Yeah.
count on one hand.
Sure.
The Legends Star Wars books that I've read. So it'll be interesting seeing that. But,
Yeah.
But yeah, we also we have we'll probably take some questions later on, depending on time. Depends how much we talk about any of the Legends stuff, and also any of the book Thrawn Treason that we read.
Thrawn Treason. Yeah.
With that though, we also should we announce what book we're going to do next? Since
Oh
we
yeah,
already have an
100%.
idea?
Do it.
That we already know. Next month we will be covering the Ahsoka novel, which will be fun. I have actually already read this one.
Yeah.
Or at least listened to it once, so it'd be a refresher for me, but it'd be new for you, I believe.
It's going to be
right?
brand new for me. I know that it covers a tiny bit of what Tales of the Jedi showed us. And Gonk's also extremely excited. And like him, I asked the question, there's going to be a little bit of myth in that one too, right? Because if it changes things up, from what we saw in Tales of the Jedi, I feel like I've been prepared for the last couple years of bringing those things together and finding the real canon.
Yeah, sure. So it'd be interesting to talk about that too, because like whenever I had read it, it was, I don't know, I think it was like a long car ride that we had like a couple years ago.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's been a while since any new stuff or whatever with Ahsoka herself has been around. So it'd be interesting kind of comparing all those kind of new things too.
Sure. Yeah. No, I and also too, like, while it sucks, like, we have, a big following when it comes to Star Wars. We have our own Star Wars channel now and everything. And we have to stress, like, there's nothing more than I want to cover the Ahsoka show.
Sure.
Like, I have, when we were at Celebration and Lars came out and all that trailer showed, like, I don't think I've been anticipating a Star Wars series more. Like, I really don't think so. Like, Andor and some of the, I guess Obi-Wan Kenobi, I was anticipating that a lot. But this has a lot of roots from Clone Wars and Rebels and Dave Filoni and stuff that I'm like, I'm super interested in that. But it's not more important than supporting actors and writers that are currently on strike. So
sure,
yeah, it's it like hurts my Star Wars heart, but that's not our priority.
Sure.
So
yeah.
anybody's disappointed in that, hopefully, if you're interested, read the Ahsoka book, and if you read it on Audible, I think it is narrated by Ashley Eckstein.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it is.
So
which is really cool.
Yeah, so that's going to be cool. So read it and join our review next time, because maybe a lot of those facts might pertain to stuff that you see in that show. We never know.
Which I believe the next Badonkagonk is going to be, what are we in? We're in August now, so it's September 7th.
September 7th.
Will be the next one.
Okay,
and
sounds
then
good.
I'm excited for what may be the next book after that.
Yeah.
Which we've been talking about what we're going to do after that one, so
Yeah.
we'll see. But we'll announce that one next month, so
Okay.
make sure you're there for that. All right, well, do we want to start first with the Thrawn book, or do we want to start with the legend myth?
I'm excited for both. I feel like I can't choose.
You can't
What do you
choose.
want to do first?
I guess we can do the legends and the
All right.
myths and start with that and see what my legends knowledge is.
All right, everybody, this is Star Wars Legend or Myth. Now, what I've done is I've gotten some facts from the old Star Wars Legends continuity, and I've paired them with stuff that I've made up. Now, Aaron, there's a lot of things from the old Legends. Many of it is great.
Sure.
Some of it is not.
Is it ridiculous?
Yeah, some of it's ridiculous. So I thought it would be fun to pair the ridiculous with my made-up ridiculous. So we're going to do an example first. Okay, so these are two facts, and you got to tell me which one actually happened in Star Wars Legends.
Okay.
Palpatine has a three-eyed son named Triclops. That's fact number one.
Okay.
Fact number two, C-3PO and R2-D2 were merged together by a mad scientist and forced to fight in a droid battle arena.
Well, dang. I was like, well, this first one sounds ridiculous, so it must be that one. But now this one sounds ridiculous, so I feel like it might be the other one.
Which one actually happened? Legend or myth?
I'm gonna go with the myth is the three-eyed son.
The myth is the three-eyed son.
And that somehow, man, I don't know, that's such a
named
weird thing.
Triclops.
Yeah, it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
But merging two droids together to make an ultimate battle droid sounds
they were put
equally
together.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, are both their minds there? Like, are both of their processors working?
They do speak to each other inside the.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Triclops is a myth, and that R2 and 3PO was a real thing.
All right. Well, that was just our training one, just to get you into it, and you're incorrect.
Is
Triclops
okay.
is the alleged son of Palpatine.
I never heard of any kind of son of his.
I believe
until until into the newer canon.
No, I mean, it was one of those things. This is actually from the Glove of Darth Vader series that we've talked about before.
Okay.
Yeah, and
it's in that.
It's one of those things that came out, and people were like, "I could see how he's not, though. Maybe he's just lying or whatever." But if you look up, in the encyclopedia that I took from the Washington County Public Library, and you looked up Triclops, it will say the three-eyed son of Emperor Palpatine.
Okay, so in the book, this guy shows up, and he's like, "I am Palpatine's son."
Yeah, he's an heir to the Empire, if you will. Yep.
All right.
That's the level of questions you're getting, Aaron.
I should have stuck with that because, I was thinking, how do you get two droids inside of one battle droid? That seems weird.
Yeah.
That seems maybe that's the ridiculous part. But
sure,
it sounds really cool. I like that idea.
Yeah. All right, so here's the next one. Okay, there is a Jedi Knight named Master Quip Whizzle. He's known for lightning-fast comebacks and humorous remarks. And he was renowned for not just his lightsaber skills, but also his ability to turn any tense situation into a lighthearted exchange. Jedi Master Quip Whizzle.
Okay.
Is that true? Or is it true that General Grievous killed a Jedi by the name of Soon Bates, who was, in fact, Jedi Master Bates? One of those is true.
So is there a Jedi Master Quip?
Quip Whizzle.
Or a Jedi Master Bates?
Soon Bates. Now, Quip is spelled Q-U-I-P and then W-I-Z-Z-L-E. And then Master Bates is S-O-O-N, Soon, B-A-Y-T-S, Bates. Is Master Whizzle or Master Bates?
I think I'm going to say that Master Bates is real, and that the idea of a Jedi turning any confrontation to a lighthearted joke time of thing is the weird thing. I'll go with Master Bates.
You are correct. Okay. Master Bates is the real Legends character who had his skull crushed by General Grievous.
Master Bates.
That was from Jedi Council Act of War number 2.
Really?
The comic book, yeah.
Jedi Master Bates.
All right, so you got a point on the board. Awesome. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one. I'm having so much fun with this.
That's so silly.
Okay, I'm going to save that one.
Okay.
All right, here's another one.
I'm worried now.
On Endor,
Uh-huh.
there is a sentient mountain called Mount Sorrow who can cure people with its tears through the power of friendship.
Uh-huh.
That's fact 1. Fact 2 is Wicket, in order to prank his friends, accidentally leads the Chief Chirpa into an unfired trap from the Battle of Endor, crushing him to death.
I mean, that one sounds more reasonable. That's sad and
Does
terrible.
Wicket accidentally kill Chief Chirpa? Or is there a sentient mountain called Mount Sorrow?
I feel like it's more believable that there's not a sentient mountain and that he accidentally killed the chief. I feel like that's a more believable situation. Man, poor Chief Chirpa. I don't remember.
Right? And
I don't
his lizard,
remember.
too. He had his lizard.
I don't remember a story in the legends of how Chief Chirpa died or anything.
Yeah. You remember he has his lizard there?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I've never seen a lot of those other like Ewok
Yep.
shows and stuff like that too. So like this could be from that, and they had to go get, like
I can give you a small hint in that one of these facts is from the Ewok comic number 17.
I mean that could be either one. I'm gonna say, damn, I'm gonna say Chief Chirpa's death is more reasonable than a sentient mountain.
So you're going with Chief Chirpa?
Yeah.
All right. You are incorrect. In Ewok number 17, there is a sentient mountain called Mount Sorrow who heals injuries with the power of friendship.
That's ridiculous. How are people mad at the canon nowadays?
That's exactly what I said. You know, I mean, it's just
Triclops?
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, after a certain amount of time, what people saw as, like, you know, when they're experiencing something new or something fresh, they either like it or they don't. But as some time passes, they tend to think about the stuff they liked more than the stuff they didn't like. They usually go for the stuff they don't like immediately, right?
Sure.
So years and years later, especially after Disney takes over and the Legends continuity is done for,
Yeah.
a lot of people, when they think of the Legends, they all think of the good stuff. They do not think of
They
Mount
skip
Sorrow.
all this stuff, huh? All right. Sentient mountain.
Sentient mountain. All right. Let me go. Okay, this one's fun. During a smuggling mission,
Okay.
Han and Chewie crash land on a planet covered in sticky, bubblegum-like terrain. Both proceed to chew on the dirt and blow bubbles.
Okay.
Okay? That's one fact
Yeah.
that happens in
It
Star
sounds
Wars
ridiculous, so I
Legends.
need to know the other one before I can make a decision.
Now, yeah.
Why would they chew it?
So that is both of these facts come from a comic book, right? The other fact from this comic book is Indiana Jones is on the hunt for Sasquatch in the rainforest. But he finds the body of Han Solo, who died 100 years ago. He is watched over by Chewbacca, who is Sasquatch.
What?
Did that happen? One of those happened in Star Wars Tales 19.
All right. So either Indiana Jones found his Han Solo's body,
Yep.
which is ridiculous,
Uh-huh.
or they landed on a bubblegum planet and started eating it.
Yeah.
That's my options here.
Yep, those are your options. Which of those happened?
I could see a comic book trying to do an Indiana Jones Han Solo crossover, though.
Yeah.
I could see that being a thing.
Uh-huh.
But it seems ridiculous to have in Legends. So it seems more realistic to have bubblegum. I can't do a 50-50. There's only two options.
There's only two options, I know.
I will, as much, both of these sound ridiculous.
Yep.
I will say that they attempted a crossover with Indiana Jones and Star Wars. So I'll say that one's the real one.
That is correct.
Oh my gosh.
That did happen.
Oh my
It is in a
gosh.
comic book. Indy finds it and says, there's something familiar about this skeleton. Yeah.
Yeah, the fake ones are made up by Eric.
I did make these up, the fake ones.
So they
I
land
know.
on a planet and ate bubblegum on the planet.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know.
Well,
That sounds ridiculous.
I was
But what
trying to
sounds-
make up ones like I was like find facts and try to like change them, but then I was like, no, I don't want to do crazy with that. But the bubblegum one I saw was funny. It's like, what would you do? What's a dumb Star Wars thing? You land bubblegum.
Yeah. But it's equally as ridiculous that the actor who played these two characters,
Yep.
they find him and Chewbacca is Sasquatch.
All right. Do you want to go a little bit into Darth Vader?
Okay.
I have two Darth Vader facts.
Okay, so one of these is okay.
One of these is true. The first one is during a critical strategy meeting with his top commanders, Darth Vader accidentally knocked over a stack of data pads, causing a domino effect that led to chaos in the conference room. Pretty much, did Darth Vader go full Mr. Bean?
He pulled a Jar Jar.
Yeah, or Jar Jar.
But it's only a Jar Jar if it had a positive effect in the end.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, you're correct.
He always has like a positive spin to
Yeah.
it by the end of it.
Was Vader embarrassed in front of all of his commanders by knocking over a stack of data pads?
Okay.
Or did Darth Vader steal the crown jewels of Alderaan, and Leia is powerless to tell anyone about it because reporting it would hurt her credit rating?
Wait, like her credit card?
Her credit rating. She cannot tell anybody that the crown jewels of Alderaan have been stolen.
Because
it
then
would hurt her
she has
credit.
to announce that they've been stolen.
Vader, it's an insidious plot. He steals those jewels.
Why is he pulling off a heist?
Which one
Why didn't he hire a bounty hunter to do the heist?
is true?
I'm going to say he knocked over a domino effect. I'm going to go with that one.
That is incorrect.
What?
Vader swindles from Leia the crown jewels of Alderaan, and she chooses not to report it because, quote, it will ruin her credit.
My credit score will drop if
credit
I
score will
announce
drop.
this, so I can't do it. I can't believe that.
That was from Star Wars number 48.
48.
Yeah, I think the old Marvel comics. Oh, man, that was so much fun.
I'd rather Darth Vader like channel Jar Jar and knock over some things and cause that. The crown jewels of Alderaan?
All right, this will be my next
I think
one.
I'm also trying to put this into the canon too much. Too.
I think
like,
you are.
What would fit like this? That doesn't make sense. Why would they do that? But I need to not do that.
All right, I got two more rounds. This first one. Uncle Ben has a friend who often brings to Lars' homestead buckets of ice cream. His name is Jerry, spelled Jerri.
Okay. So Ben has Jerry bring ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds ridiculous.
Yes, but I don't know what the next one's going to be.
The next one, this is a character called George R. Binks, who is Jar Jar's father. They have a company called Binks and Son Whaling, and one day they are shipwrecked. Jar Jar drives his father to madness with his ineptitude, and he attempts to kill himself. His wife says, "No, you can't do this. Think of our son." And when she says that, he pulls the trigger.
What?
Which one of those two facts is true, and it was in Star Wars Legends? Ben and Jerry, or George R. Binks attempts to kill himself?
I think there's too much detail in the Jar Jar Binks one for you to have a Ben and Jerry's joke in Star Wars. I think you were having dessert the other day, and you're like, you know what? I think this is a good Star Wars fact. You know, Ben and Jerry's, old Ben, Uncle Ben. Yeah, we're going to do this kind of thing.
George R. Binks.
That's a ridiculous name.
Yep.
But I have no idea what Jar Jar Binks' dad's name is.
Yeah.
And it could be Jar Jar Binks.
Yep. And they have Binks and Son Whaling.
That story was so much longer
I
than the
know,
other story.
Ben and Jerry.
So I feel like you either went real deep creating a story,
Yeah.
or that must be the real one.
Or did I think that you'd think that and made the other one even simpler, even though there are more details? You gotta pick one.
I'm gonna go with Jar Jar.
You are correct. George R. Binks
So-
attempted suicide because of what Jar Jar did on that island.
He did it. He pulled because he's.
Well,
like,
he
thinking
did. He actually didn't kill himself.
Oh, he missed?
He missed. it went off of his skull.
It's
or
like,
something.
no, Eric,
Yeah.
think of your son. He's
Yeah,
like, ah!
That's exactly what she shouldn't have said. All right, that is the final round. Aaron, you are 3 for 5.
No.
So let's see if you can make it 4 for 6.
Okay.
Okay. The last one
This
is
the last one. I can't believe his name is George R. Binks.
This is about Luke Skywalker.
Okay.
These are 2 facts
Mary
that
Jane.
Luke did. Fact number 1. Luke dates a ghost who possesses his dead Padawan.
Okay.
Or Luke attempts to levitate Calf over to a visiting king, but spills it and causes an intergalactic war.
Damn. That one sounds silly. But the other one sounds really silly.
One of those is true.
He dates a ghost inside of his dead Padawan. Or he spilt some coffee and caused a war. Who would he cause a war with in Legends back in the day?
And specifically, he spills it trying to
Here,
impress
Mr.
somebody.
King.
He's bringing it
Ah,
over
shit.
to them. It drops onto the king and causes a war.
and neither of these have too much detail.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll go with the Ghost and the Padawan one, because I don't know who he would cause a war with in Legends back then.
Uh-huh.
This would have been after.
This
Return
would
of
have
the
been
Jedi,
around
you know?
the
Like,
time. Yeah, this would have been in between the time of Return of the Jedi and what came after.
Yeah, like going into Heir of the
Mhm.
Empire and stuff like that. So like,
Yep.
I'm gonna say the dead ghost one.
You are correct. Luke dates a ghost. So the story about this is Luke is on a ship called, I think, the Eye of Palpatine.
Okay, I've heard of that before. That
And
sounds familiar.
there is a dead Jedi woman who died on the ship, but is like the AI of the ship now. Luke also has a student who, through a bunch of different stuff, loses her body pretty much. She dies, but her body's intact.
Okay.
Luke then, the plan is that
we put the AI.
Castella Ming, the AI ghost spirit, goes into his student's body, and then they date.
That's weird.
And
Yeah, right? What the hell is
Aaron,
this?
some would call it a legend. That was Legends or Myth. And you got 4 out of 6. I think you did good.
That's. Thank you, Gonk. I appreciate it. No, it's just it's so weird because like
Yeah.
there's been there's things that people talk about like the newer trilogy of stuff or new books and what they're
yeah.
doing with this and that, and I'm like some of these things that I'm hearing, like the thing about Glove of Darth Vader, like I heard about it a little bit and stuff.
Yeah.
Like the idea of that is so silly, but it's because they had no more stories to do and someone just made this
Yeah.
story and that's what they did.
Well, I mean, some
And it's like-
ideas are better than others. And
Sure.
also back then, like, it wasn't, you didn't like, they had certain levels of reading. They had children books and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But also, you just had some bad ideas.
Yeah. No, I agree. So, like, guys, remember this. When you're talking to people about canon and, like, what is in the new canon and what people don't like and what's
Yeah.
stupid, tell them that at one point Chewbacca was Sasquatch and Indiana Jones found Han Solo's body. Like, how ridiculous does that sound?
Also, a long time ago is only 100 years ago.
Yeah. That's not that long ago.
Yeah.
Like, these are some of the most ridiculous things.
Yeah.
George R. Binks.
George
you
R.
know, Like,
Binks.
that was his name.
George R. Binks,
Like-
yeah. No, there's a bunch more, so maybe we'll have to do another version of Legends or Myth at some point, but that was just scratching the surface of some of these crazy ones. I try to do ones that, like, he could believe these ones were real.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
like, you have, like, I think the toughest part is trying to create, like, what's a ridiculous thing
Yeah.
that is as equally ridiculous as
Yeah,
these things.
like the Ben and Jerry one is dumb, but you could see it's just dumb enough where an author might be,
Yeah, this would be
you know?
funny.
Yeah.
Here's Uncle Ben
Yeah, 'cause, like,
and his friend Jerry.
You've had, like, that's Bulbasaur.
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, there's a thing, like, they're describing a Bulbasaur, you know? They're talking about the robot,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
The Doctor Who robot
Doctor Who
that came
robot.
in a blue box thousands of years ago. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's just a connection to something else, you know?
Yeah.
And it's fun and it's
It is
different, but yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's also not the only problem with the old Legends continuity, and sometimes you get this problem with new canon books too, but they're just like wild directions that you can go in the old Legend stuff
Sure.
that aren't very cohesive, you know?
Well, even like the idea of like a sentient mountain sounds ridiculous, but maybe there's something where it's like, well, they
Yeah.
believe it to be a mountain, but really it's a little bit more like the Bendu or something
Sure.
too. You know, like they thought that was like stuff on the planet until it was like that's a creature.
I mean, if I ever was tasked with doing a Star Wars thing that had Ewoks in it, I'd 100% try to find somewhere that I could reference Mount Sorrow,
Sure. Yeah.
you know?
That'd be
It was like a kid's book or kid's comic too, so it's very,
Sure.
very for a smaller audience or a younger audience. But
Okay.
sometimes the old Legend stuff too. I can't remember what book it was. I was infuriated. Like all of the dialogue, or nearly all the dialogue, was just quotes from the movie.
really?
Yeah, like it would just be, the characters in a different situation, but kind of saying stuff like, "You're clear, kid. Let's blow this thing. Go home." Like almost, I don't know. I'll have to find that one, but that one always got to me too, where so much of the dialogue was just
It's
quotes.
just things I've already heard.
Yeah, just like, this sounds like Star Wars. We'll just keep using this over and over again.
Sure.
I'll have to research that one because that one really got to me.
Well, see, and that's too why I think that Star Wars can also kind of like change and fit with all the different planets and things you have. Like you can change what it looks like, what technology is here. You know, like this planet may not have much. This planet may be very technologically advanced, and you know they modify their bodies and all this stuff. But this one, like they're tribal people, and they don't really even have spaceships here. You know, like you can really have drastic differences. I think Star Trek kind of does the same stuff too as they travel through and whatnot. But I like those kind of ideas. So like when we go through these books and get to these different planets, or you know whatever the case is, just seeing new stuff.
Agreed.
So, I don't know. Hopefully, things kind of branch out and we get a lot of things that aren't too crazy. But I wouldn't mind seeing like R2 and 3PO turn into like a big old droid and fight stuff.
I was thinking about that one. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, it'd be neat, right? Like you think about like all the things R2 is like shot out of his body at times, like all his electricity, there's a saw blade, you know, like imagine that. But it's like R2D2 armor on 3PO, and they're like, you know, coming at like I don't know, like
there's a
like a battle bot.
there's a Legends bounty hunter that's a C-3PO droid. Protocol droid looks exactly like him, but it's like one of the most ruthless bounty hunters in the galaxy. So I've always enjoyed that happens, and I think at one point 3PO like masquerades as him.
Really,
it's very funny.
Masquerades as a
so
bounty
yeah,
hunter.
I mean Legends is full of, I mean just like the canon stuff, but Legends is full of like some fantastic momentary glimpses in time that don't make sense anymore. But those stories are still mean something. They can still entertain. They can still teach. And just because they're not canon anymore doesn't mean they're not worth anything, you know?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, C-3PX. That's right.
C-3PX. I'm also now wondering how Chief Chirpa died.
Oh, I don't even know if he died. I was trying to think up, like, what could happen on Ewoks that's just as silly. I just love the idea of, like, Wicket, like, hey, come check this out. And he kills the leader. Like, oh!
Log falls or something or whatever. Like, oh, man. But, no, that was fun. None of those were things that I've read before or anything I've gone through and whatnot. So,
all right. Well, as long as you stay ignorant of Legends material, as long as possible, maybe one day legend or myth will return.
Yeah. I don't plan on going back and reading any of them unless we do them for Badonkagonk.
Yeah, I get you.
So, I'll stick to the canon stuff for now.
Yeah.
But, all right. Well, if we're done with that one,
we're
guys.
Done with that one.
First off, make sure you hit like, especially if you like that, and if that's something you want us to do more, let us know. But we also have to talk about Thrawn Treason.
Thrawn Treason.
And I believe we've also opened up Q&As. What?
It's treason time.
It's treason time. But there's also Q&As open.
Yeah.
So make sure you guys submit any questions. We can try to talk about that stuff as well, especially after we talk about Thrawn.
Yeah. All right, so the third book in this series, we read Thrawn, we read Thrawn Alliances, and now Thrawn Treason.
Sure.
Which seems to really be the closing of this trilogy of what is Thrawn doing in between Rebel seasons?
Well, yeah. And this one, too, not even after Rebel seasons.
Yeah.
There's a part where it's like in the middle of the last season, and like he gets a notification from Tarkin talking about his TIE Defender program and how he needs to like appeal to the Emperor to make sure they don't get rid of it. And they take off, and then you don't see him again until like the final episode and stuff. So this is where he was during that whole time, which is pretty interesting. I thought that was cool to be able to like, okay, what was he doing?
Yeah.
And at the very beginning, I was kind of like, oh, this is what he was doing?
That's what he's doing.
Because it was the premise of this book is that Krennic is working on Project Stardust, right? The Death Star.
Yeah.
And his supply line and stuff is being interrupted and messed up, and it's because of Grolix or big versions of Minox.
They're like giant Minox that, you know, it's not just annoying when they're chewing on the power cable, it's debilitating when they're chewing on the power cable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like these Minox, they're like going, they're chewing on these ships. Sometimes it triggers something, and we see it in one of the chapters of this book too, where a ship has been triggered in its hyperspace, and they're trying to stop it, and it just takes off and it's just gone. Yep. And this is what they've been doing: is these Minox come and they chew on these cables, and the ships fly off, and they get lost into space because they're not like trying to program them to a certain location. They just fly off somewhere, right?
Yeah, and it's annoying enough where it's like it is making a headache with the scheduling and the budget of Project Stardust.
Yeah, and it's already an expensive project already.
Yeah, and it takes up most of the Empire's whole budget, right?
Yeah.
Which is why Thrawn can't get funding for the Defender project.
Yeah. So I thought Tarkin's idea was like, okay, well, if he can solve your Grolic problem in a week,
Yeah.
he gets his Defender project money. But if he can't do it, then we'll take his project money and give it to you.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. But then I was like, so this is the book, is we're just hunting and solving a Grolic problem.
Grolic problem.
All these Minocs are doing stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So I was kind of like, this seems dumb.
Timothy's on. Let me tell you something, buddy. This one ain't it.
Yeah.
That seems dumb.
It did. In the very beginning, I was like, this seems like I wanted more from Thrawn except for hunting vermin down.
Yeah,
you
you
know?
gotta hunt that vermin.
I think it seems silly. Even the Emperor Palpatine's like, so we're being delayed by vermin. You know? He's like upset and angry about it. But the as it goes on too, he starts researching, which they've been looking into it for years, I guess, trying to figure out this problem and solve it and whatnot. But I like that Thrawn. He's like, okay, here's all the data they all have. I don't care.
Yep.
I'm gonna get my own data.
Yeah.
Let's start shooting them. And they start. Eventually, they like.
Begin ion bombing.
Yeah. They start attacking him and stuff. They eventually get one. They dissect it and look into it and stuff. And eventually, Thrawn's like, you know what? We're leaving. I just thought it was interesting. And like his process one was to ignore everything, but then he caught on to something else. They went to where they thought the ship. I think it was the Arlon or Arlen 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
But that ship takes off, and they have a space station that they find basically like out in space in the trajectory of where that ship took off to. And now there's a grander scheme, and it's not just about the Grolics.
It's not just the Grolics. It's the return of the people that appeared last time, right?
Sure. Well, they're involved too.
Well, they're involved. Sure.
But there's higher up somewhere in the Imperials.
There's a conspiracy, and then there's also an intrusion upon the Empire itself that gets wrapped up
from
in that
the
conspiracy.
Grisk, right? So they're
No,
in there too.
I love. There's a line later in the book where it's like, they sent Thrawn out to deal with these vermin, and he came back with a treasonous conspiracy plot with interlopers.
Yeah. Within the week.
Of course he's right. Within the week.
Yeah. Like, here's the thing. These guys have been working. No one's figured any of this stuff out for, like, months to years. And Thrawn comes in for a week and he's like, he did it.
I enjoyed how incredibly petty director Orson Krennic is. Where he's telling, because he has an assistant director, right?
Ronan, I think is his name.
Yeah, Ronan. And he sends him with Thrawn and says, like, look, I want him to solve this pest problem, but mess him up just enough where he can't solve it, and then bring his solution back to me, and I'll solve it.
Yeah, that way I get the money, and I get the vermin.
I'm like, you are so petty. And he makes all of his people wear capes, too. It's so fun.
Well, I liked how they described the assistant director as, like, he also had a cape, but it wasn't quite as long as Krennic's cape.
Sure.
It was a little shorter. But, no, I thought it was, it got into an interesting story from there.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, the first, 4 or 5 chapters, I'm like, wow, man, this is what we're doing. I don't want to hunt Grolics and stuff. But it got into more of a conspiracy theory. We also met, we'd met her before, I think, at the end of the first Thrawn book was Arlani.
Yeah, Admiral
Arlani.
Yeah.
So it was cool to bring Eli back into this.
Oh, man.
Because I felt like I missed him from the last
too.
book. But I also liked having Anakin and Vader.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Like, that was really good.
Yeah.
So I missed Eli, but the last book with that was really good.
I missed Eli, and Commodore Pharaoh was kind of like taking Eli's place for me. I was like, well, I really like Pharaoh, though, so I guess we got Pharaoh. But this book allowed me to enjoy them both. And this book also didn't do a thing where, I don't know, sometimes when we're reading these books, we'll switch point of views to something else that's happening. I'll be like, God dang it, I was really good in the other one. This one I feel like did that better.
Okay, sure. No, I get what you mean. I liked a lot of the Eli story stuff that we were doing. Also, this was Mark Thompson, wasn't it? That read this?
This was Mark Thompson,
because like Thrawn was really good, Krennic was really good. Like whenever Krennic was talking, I'm like, man, that sounds like Krennic.
Yeah,
he does such a good voice.
And then part of the cast also is Grand Admiral, what's his name? Savit.
Yeah.
Who Mark Thompson had a choice for Grand Admiral Savit.
I called him like the Imperial Sean Connery.
Yeah, he's totally Sean Connery. As soon as he said that, I could not hear it.
I was like, what about that Sean Connery Imperial? And you're like, the what? I'm like, listen to this.
No, yeah, you're right.
Like,
I don't know why,
Connery.
but yeah.
So now I just pictured Sean Connery as an Imperial.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what my.
Were you picturing older Sean Connery, or were you picturing
he was
younger?
Older.
Well, mine was older too. Mine was Rock, the Rock.
Sean Connery. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. No, definitely that. I wasn't like.
I could see him in the white uniform and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they described him as being older and stuff too and whatnot. But no, I thought I went through and was re-listening to some of the stuff too after I had finished, and there was a few parts where I'm like, oh, okay, and we can get into the things I pick up with it and whatnot. But originally I was kind of like, why is he here?
Savik?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why Savik's here. Like,
I mean, I thought it was cool, like, meeting another of the 12 Grand Admirals.
That was one thing, too, is I didn't realize, I guess similar to, like, Grand Moff Tarkin, right? I'm like, the Grand Moff Tarkin. He's better than the other Moffs, right? He's the Grand Moff.
Yeah.
I think I kind of thought, like, Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's better than just Admiral whatever.
Sure.
But, yeah, apparently there's a lot more Admirals, Grand Admirals, than I thought there were.
Yeah.
So we met another one of those here with this.
Yep.
And
he wasn't particularly impressive.
No, not necessarily.
But I should say he also, I think, got jobbed more than any other commander character I've seen in Star Wars.
Sure. No. I thought that these books have done a pretty good job of, like, threading a line where I'm like, I don't necessarily like these Imperials, but I don't necessarily hate these Imperials.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you.
Where it's like, I feel like not... It's one of those things, too, of, like, from the point of view, like... I'm rooting for, like, Eli, and I'm rooting for, like, these different, like, I'm rooting on Thrawn. Like, I want Admiral Thrawn to do a good job and succeed, but, like, then you see him in other situations, I'm like, man,
it's the power of the protagonists.
Yeah.
Like, you have to.
Yeah, but, like, the conversations they had, too, and I think it was Ronan, the assistant director of Krennic, who was talking about, like, there's a part earlier on in the book where they're talking about, Admiral Thrawn has set them up to admit that they didn't do the things they were supposed to do, right? Like, I hate when leaders do that. And they set them up to admit that they failed and didn't do it right. And then he's like, oh, good, I'm glad you did it. You know, like, he's like, wait, what? He's not angry? He's not rubbing things in their face? He's not, like, what? And it catches him off guard.
He genuinely tries to better the people under him.
Yeah. And, like, you look around at, like, all the people who are, like, with Thrawn and doing the things and, like, agree. And, like, he's there for his people, too. Like, he doesn't want his people to die or anything.
I mean, I think that it's important that the crux of the kind of not final battle, but one of the final battles is, will an Imperial do the right thing?
Sure.
Right? I mean, that's pretty much what he asks of Pelion.
Yeah.
Right? On his ship and some of the other Imperials, where it's like, hey, it's not about just following orders. You need to actually think about the orders that are being followed, or you're being asked, and then make your decision. So, I mean, that's cool, but the Empire are a bunch of fascist Nazis too. So,
No, they are. Like, at one point, they talk about, like, a food that's like the bare minimum of, like, a Wookiee or something like that, right? And it's like, oh, well, this must be like the slave food for a Wookiee, right? To work on the Death Star or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but as far as the story goes, like, I thought it was interesting. We meet Arlani and Eli, who have been following Grisks. The Grisks have been, like, trying to sneak in and take the stuff that has been being, like, the conspiracy theft that has been happening. So there's Imperials that are stealing stuff, and then the Grisks found out and started taking their stuff. Yeah. Right? So there ends up being, like, a spread out, and we kind of go in different directions and learn more information, do all these things, and then ultimately come back to learning that Grand Admiral Savit has been leading this conspiracy because he is against the Death Star. And
much like Thrawn is.
Kind of, yeah. But I was with him to a point where he's like, this is a waste of money. It's much better to have this on the Defender program or something like that, where it's going to support so much more instead of eventually, whether it's in a year or 2 years or 10 years, this will be destroyed and we'll have nothing. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay. So what have you been doing with all the weapons? It's like you've been profiting from this? Yeah. It's not like he's been, like, delivering it to other Imperials and helping to get all their ships stronger and stuff. So I was like, well, you kind of lost me on that there. Like, if you'd been like, well, I've been hoarding it all because I just don't want them to have it. It's a waste of stuff and we'll divvy it up later. Like, that's maybe a little different. He could have been like, hey, Emperor, look, you're wasting this. This is, put this somewhere else, But
I gotta admit, like, I didn't suspect him almost all the way up until where he's like, I wonder when the best way to kill Thrawn is. And I was like, huh?
Wait, what?
what do you mean, buddy? I think I read that wrong.
Sure.
Then I was like, oh. And then when Thrawn accused him, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
How are you gonna get out of this? You're on his ship.
Yeah.
And Thrawn's like, I want a good view of the coming battle.
Yeah. No, it was really cool. They really brought a lot of information together, but the prisoner exchange that they wanted towards the end of the book, I thought was great, where he's there, then, like, Thrawn is there at Savit, he's on his ship, he's up in his bridge without any, like, he just went, And I love when he's like, how'd you sneak up here? It's like, do you really think I could have snuck up here without anyone seeing me?
Right.
It's like, no, it sounds ridiculous. It's like, yes, but how many of your people would have interrupted a Grand Admiral walking through your Imperial Star Destroyer? It's a good point.
Yeah.
All right.
No, they see that uniform a lot, and they have respect for it.
Yeah, they're like, I ain't saying anything. He's doing something. He's on a mission. I'm not going to be like, excuse me, sir, stop.
Yeah. No, that was good.
But I really did enjoy the final battle where he's like, we're going to capture you, Savit, and there will be no bloodshed.
Mm-hmm.
And the process that they went through with that, I thought was really cool. And his ship won the battle, doing everything he told them to do without him being there to tell them to do it.
Sure.
Right? Like he told Faro, here's everything you're going to do. When he does this, you do this. When he does this, you do this.
Yeah.
And it's like he wasn't even on the ship to tell. She's just remembering and relaying the orders. And she's like, I'm wondering if he can win a battle without being in it.
Yeah.
I was like, that's ridiculous. But it's just Admiral Thrawn, I guess.
It's Admiral Thrawn. I mean, Pharaoh followed the instructions, but I also appreciate that he called out whenever she adapted his instructions.
And went higher and stuff. Yeah.
Like, I don't think that... I think that she's one of the most impressive people I've seen. I'm glad that she was awarded, the 11th Fleet or something like that at the end.
Like, was going to go back to Coruscant and stuff. Now, when they said about that, I didn't re-listen to it, and I should have. Were they saying that she will be going back to Coruscant, or is like after we go to Lothal, you will go back to Coruscant?
She will be going back to Coruscant. They said that she's going to start orientation for leading the...
Okay. Because I was like, oh, no. She went to Lothal.
Oh, no. Chopper's going to get her.
Yeah. I was like, I don't want that to happen.
No, I get you, yeah.
But it was
Hellion was on Lothal, though.
It was cool to have, he was there. And he was here in his, was it the Harbinger?
I think it's the Harbinger.
I think.
And then, maybe.
I think
Not the Steadfast. The Steadfast is the Chiss
That
ship.
was, Arlani's.
So the Harbinger.
Harbinger was his, and then the Dragon Breath, Dragon Flame Dragon? Fire Dragon?
Yeah, something like that.
Something with that was Savit's ship.
Savit's flagship,
and I enjoyed the whole combat method they did. I enjoyed all of Thrawn's ideas. He brought on his own troopers to steal their TIE fighters.
Yeah.
And then like they took off and attacked the ship, and then they used that to be like, some of our TIE fighters went rogue because Savit's going crazy, and they're trying to stop it too. And I was like, that's really good.
I had two things in the book that were my two equal favorites.
Okay.
One is Vanko, who, or Vanto.
Okay.
Eli, who in the first Thrawn book, it took so long for him to finally get past the rank of lieutenant. And then he goes to Chiss Ascendancy, and they demote him to lieutenant. I thought that was really funny. And then also...
And then by the end of the book, they made him like lieutenant commander or something, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and he has a very interesting project that he's working on. He's pretty much trying to find a way to track and predict where Chiss Skywalkers are going to show up, which is really cool.
Yeah, like that was the project he was working on, which is interesting because like in the beginning of the book, they're like, they just gave me all this information and it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not ship directions, it's not military schematics or anything. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's just like busy work.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that eventually it's like, oh, here's kind of what you've been doing and what's going on. And he also has that connection with Vanya, I think was her name, right?
Vanya, the 22-year-old.
Yeah, the older Chiss, like...
Yeah, she like still has her third sight, right?
Yeah.
They have second sight, which is the driving, and then third sight, like she can pretty much... She uses the Force in a pretty significant way. Like she can like connect and read minds.
So much that like Ronan was like, no!
Exactly, yeah.
At one point he's like watching, he's like, she flinched. Why? And he's like, that guy tripped and everyone else flinched, but she didn't because she flinched already.
Yeah, she already
must have the Force. She must be a Jedi. Thrawn has Jedi. And
Treason.
He just goes through this whole thing. He's like, wait a minute. Maybe they put me here so I can watch them, so I can report all the Jedi, so that we can capture the Jedi. That's the real reason. You know, like he
really
spiraled so much into this thing. I thought he was a fun character and stuff too. Or she? I think it was a she, right?
Ronan?
I think. I'm trying to remember when they were describing the different characters. There was someone where I'm like, okay, so that one was a girl, and that one was a guy.
Ronan was a guy.
Was Ronan the guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
He talks like this. At least that's what Mark Thompson has him as. But
sure.
I may be wrong, but
okay.
Unless I went that entire thing assuming the wrong gender, I might have.
It's possible.
It's happened before.
Yeah, sure. But the just the story of their character and how they kind of went from like Admiral Thrawn and like we get to the end where they're there and Savit is holding Ronan and has and is like I'm gonna shoot Thrawn,
Uh-huh.
and they like, well, I don't like Thrawn, but I don't like Savit, and I'll do this, and like
Yeah.
they help Thrawn and stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, well, good. Like there's like that inner struggle of where I should go and what should Thrawn die, and it helps me both ways.
And
So-
then ends up being another person that's going to be sent to the Ascendancy,
Yeah,
which I was shocked by. I'm like, really?
it's a
Okay.
weird choice, isn't it? I think, but
Maybe Thrawn's thinking like this guy, because Ronan throughout the book even would say a couple of times like, hey, I wasn't always an administrator in the Imperial. I have skills too. Like whenever he acts like he's an actor playing himself, that was a really fun moment. But
yeah, with Eli and stuff.
yeah,
right?
there was parts of me that was like, I wonder if I should reread this and think of him as more likable, because I didn't really like him throughout the whole book until the very end, So, but that could make for a really interesting character. Maybe I end up loving him
Sure.
later, And he has a cape, so it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did enjoy their journey to, I forget what planet it was, but it was into the sector where the governor with an H. It was Savit's sector. And stuff.
Yeah.
I want to say Governor Haywood, but I don't think that was it.
It was something like that.
It was something along those lines, but where they were going there and they were researching and looking into everything that was going on. And I thought it was interesting. Like Eli's like, I gotta hurry up and come up with stuff on the fly.
Yeah.
We're like spies, basically.
Well, and also he has the 2 Death Troopers with him.
Yeah, sure.
Who I don't know why, but those guys cracked me up, because they were like badass, like Terminator dudes, but
Yeah.
like they weren't like the most competent.
Sure.
Just something about the way they interact with everybody just kind of made me laugh.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, there was
really
something
why.
with him that
Yeah.
I was like, I like that. I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
Now I forget what it was, but
This is because they were so hardcore, There's just something edgy about the 2 Death Troopers out of the outfit.
Yeah.
that really enjoyed.
I like that. I also I thought it was interesting. There was a point when Eli was trying to convince people about something, and he like name drops Night Swan, and I was like, oh, Night Swan.
Yeah.
Is Night Swan gonna be here?
That
Where'd he come? What do you mean? Wait, when are we? I was
Yeah.
like, why are you saying Night Swan?
Yeah, no, I mean, he has to work with what he has, right? He knows
Yeah.
Night Swan's a pretty big name.
Yeah.
And then he says Night Swan was working with the Hutts. And, that
There's like
lady.
a name drop, and I just
Yeah.
at first when it first got mentioned, I got real excited. I'm like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
He's not around.
Yeah.
He was saying, he was the new Night Swan. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just got so excited when they
Yeah.
named him and stuff.
But then we also meet a character named Mole,
Yeah, Mole.
who has a fantastic name, because it turns out Mole is a mole working for the ISB, an ISB agent. Daedra?
Daedra?
Not Daedra. Daedra is
Daedra?
ISB from Andor. Isn't that her name?
Oh.
Daedra?
Yeah, that sounds right.
It was like Data?
It wasn't
Not Data.
Data.
Let me look it up,
Data.
because he
Data?
really was one of my favorite new characters in the book.
I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I absolutely loved the way that he's acting like Mole, and then
The performance you get from Mark Thompson in this,
Yeah.
up until when he changes,
he has
It's
a
like-
nasally voice up
and
in here.
it's so like nervous, anxiety feeling, right?
Uh-huh.
Like just constantly. I thought it was done really well. It's like he came in like he knows everything, but it's like
Deja.
Deja.
That's what it is.
It
Yeah,
just
Deja was fun.
It took me a long time to realize what Savit's name was,
Hmm.
just because like every time I heard them pronounce it, I was like, they say Sabit, they say Savine, they say Sabine,
Oh, okay.
they say what they
gotcha.
say. So
Yeah.
it took me a long time. So some of the names I'm like,
Yeah.
they say this one, because I'm not reading it either.
Mhm.
If I could read it and hear it, I'd be like, oh, now I see.
Yeah. But just the shock of when Mole just like, oh, okay, well, you're not gonna kill me, are you? Like, no, of course I'm not gonna kill you. You're
Hey,
Mole.
what about my 100 credits?
Yeah. And then he just like kicks someone in the chest 3 times in like a second.
Yeah.
Takes everybody out. And I just thought it was cool having this like James Bond Imperial agent thing,
Yeah.
He's not so much like Callus, who was a little more over the top evil. This guy was a little more like, you pay me, I do what needs done.
Yeah.
So I really liked
It's
it.
like, you must be worth it to burn my cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they escaped.
And then he just escapes at the end. Like, they just never bring him back until the very end where he shoots.
Which I thought
recovers.
that recover
Yeah.
the uncovering of him being there was
Yeah.
really cool, because it's
That
like
was fun.
they turn around like stormtroopers just laying on the ground,
Yeah.
and there they are. They've shot. I
Yeah.
thought that was really cool. So it was a really neat character, and
It was.
it did.
I would like to see him again.
I thought about it for a little bit, where I'm like, Mole. I was like, is this person just happened to show up at a very convenient
did,
time?
yeah.
But the name Mole seems too obvious,
Yeah. It
right?
does.
You
Kinda,
know.
yeah.
So I'm like, maybe not. But
No, I wasn't thinking about it at all.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Mark Thompson burying it with that voice, but
Maybe.
I did not consider it at all.
The voice and stuff, I don't know how it was written, but the way he performed whatever was written was great.
Sure, I get you.
But yeah, whenever he first showed up, because it was like, there's about to be trouble for Eli. How's he going to get out of this? And then someone showed up immediately, and I was like, ooh, did Thrawn send somebody? What is this? Is this going to be their escape? And then I was like, okay, maybe not. Named Mole, and the way they kind of like, they didn't come in for them. They came in for other stuff. And then they're like, ooh, what's that? And it's like, well, you know about the other thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what are they? Well, you know, they already did the thing, and it like, there's like this stutteriness with them, and it's also very matter of fact.
It is.
And I thought the performance for that was really cool. I like that a lot. So,
I liked whenever he burnt his cover, and then the dead troopers were like, actually, your cover is quite certain if we kill these ones. Like, come on, buddy. Muffin, stop it. I don't remember his name was. Muffin. Something like that, though.
There was like Pick or something.
Yeah.
Pick or Bick,
or
something like that.
They mentioned that their names sounded a little strange.
Yeah, it wasn't Muffin
like
though, but yeah, there was a weird name.
But those guys were funny.
But yeah, no, I thought that was pretty good too.
I think the book really sold for me just how scary and powerful the Grists might be. Yeah, waffle. That's what it was.
It made me laugh. Waffle.
But the Grist, slave client species that they have, but the explanations we have from some of those human prisoners about what exactly they do, like they get you on their side. They enslave you to the point, not like what Palpatine's doing with fear, but they take your will, right? Palpatine with the Death Star is literally like freezing everybody in fear, like do something or I destroy planets,
Sure.
Do this or I destroy planets. Whereas the Grits like make you love them, make you serve them for real. They take away your mind. And when they were explaining, or I guess it was Pharaoh that was really thinking about it, like, yeah, the Death Star is scary, but if you can have billions of people within the Empire fall to that, then what can you do? You can't fire the Death Star at all of them. You know?
Yeah. Maybe you had a lot of TIE defenders.
But if you had a bunch of TIE defenders, we would, huh?
Yeah.
That's right, motherfucker.
No, I mean, like, as they've gone and stuff, too, and I like that they also mentioned about, like, Darth Vader really liked this, but, he's with the Emperor. If the Emperor pushes the Death Star, he'll push the Death Star. But maybe he buys me a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So, no, I think this book was fun, and I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. I think I liked the first two more.
I love the first one. The second one I liked. I mean, I love the Anakin stuff, but, there were, like, I think I don't know. I like them all, honestly.
Sure. The second one, like, I really loved all the Anakin Vader stuff. The Padme stuff felt slower for me.
Sure.
On that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I want to get back to the Vader thing and the Anakin stuff and whatnot. But in this one, though, like you said, like, I like going and seeing Thrawn.
Yeah.
I like going and seeing Eli. Mm-hmm. Like, those are two of the main stories that we're following.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if there's other parts where I'm like, oh, man, what are we doing here? But I liked Ronan enough, too, where...
Me too. Eventually, I liked him enough. Yeah.
So it didn't have too much stuff I didn't like that drug it down a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I think the overall story for it, and also maybe part of the problem too is like this one's really close to where I know of like the ending of like the TIE Defender program, right?
Absolutely.
Or where not quite where Thrawn ends up, but where he kind of ends up. So like I kind of know like, man, no matter what he does with this program, whether he wins or loses, he loses. So like maybe there's a little bit of that element there too. Whereas like going through the original book. Like, I don't really know this part of Thrawn, what we're going to get out of him, and getting introduced to him, and watching him rise through the ranks and, make his way, and even get some Governor Price and stuff in there, that stuff was really cool, too. But the second book really had, like, here's a flashback to when he met Anakin Skywalker. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And now we're going to go to today, where he's fighting alongside Darth Vader. I'm like, oh, it's and he's, like, trying to figure out who's inside the Darth Vader suit, and there's all those elements there. Mm-hmm. This one here had, like, still a mystery, but it wasn't a mystery that I thought was quite as like captivating for me as some of the past books, I think.
Yeah, it really has like it gives you like a taste that hey, things out in the unknown region are really really bad, and the Empire might not be prepared for it.
Sure.
Right, but I mean,
I want more of that.
It does make you think like, oh, okay, so I want more of that. Which I mean, I am heartened knowing that there's another trilogy of the Thrawn books that's specifically the Ascendancy. So that sounds awesome.
Yeah, like that'd be cool.
Yeah,
and And I wonder too, like going forward and more canon and whatnot. Well, how much of this will stay with being important to things? Will it kind of fall into the back burner where it's not? It's still there, but it's not being like fully utilized or anything. Because I want to see the Grisk more. Like I want to see like
Me too.
How do we fight these creatures? And
also
like,
the title of this book, I was like, Treason. Oh, holy what? Oh, this guy's Treason. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, well, that's one thing too, because we talked about it last book where it's like. They're already kind of worried about the way he is with the Chiss and, going and protecting the Skywalkers and stuff like that, right? Like, Vader kind of accused him as possibly being treasonous and not being fully for the Empire and being for the Chiss.
I mean, Thrawn will have to, he eventually is going to have to make a choice, the Empire or the Ascendancy. And either one choice he makes will be treasonous.
Sure.
Right?
And Eli kind of talks about that a little bit too, right? Where it's like, it's interesting, both of us are in a predicament where we're in another place that we weren't originally, and we have joined their side. Yeah. But have either of us fully joined their side, or are we still kind of working for the other side too? Yeah. So I'll be very curious to see kind of where that route goes, and I would hope we get more Eli as well, because Eli has been an interesting character, I think, through at least the 2 books. He wasn't in the second one, but.
Of the characters that you can label good Imperials, he's like the best.
I think he's one of the best ones, yeah. Like just the things he says, the people he talks to, the trust he has in him. I like how upset he was whenever he was like, "Oh hi, that's all I got." Oh,
Yeah,
like,
right.
Like, Lieutenant Vanto.
Yeah,
and like, that's it. Not even okay. You know
it
what?
was very much like Goku and Gohan and a bridge, and it's like, "Dad, you're back." Hey.
Yeah, right. So it's like. Like he's contemplating like, were we ever friends? Yeah. Are we friends? Were we just coworkers?
I know, it was so hard for me to read that or listen to it.
Yeah, so like
I wanted him to feel better.
Those bits and stuff, and it's like who is the loyalty people have to Thrawn because of who Thrawn is, or is it because he is the Grand Admiral and they're just listening to the people higher up in the Empire? Yeah. So I don't know, but there's different things with that. Like I root on Thrawn so much more in this, and I feel like I shouldn't be, But
I mean, it will. Yeah, it's going to make watching Ahsoka more complicated.
Well, sure.
But we'll see if they pick up on any of that stuff or not.
Sure.
Whenever we,
I guess this leads to the point where, like, in future times, whenever you have like rebels fighting him, like I kind of want him to win. Yeah. But I don't want him to beat the good guys. I don't know. I did enjoy the prologue as well. We got a little bit with the Emperor.
Yeah, we did,
which I thought was cool, and it more butted into where we see him again in like Rebels canon and stuff too.
Really feels like that was like, these 3 books open and close with the Emperor. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Kind of.
You meet Thrawn on the planet and then you go to the Emperor. And then here we get back to the Emperor and he's like, all right, so what happened? Tell me the story. All right, well, we'll deal with that. But first, Ezra Bridger. Yeah. Go build me a temple in your Chimera.
Chimera.
Yeah.
Don't tell anyone.
It's just, all right, I guess I'll do that,
Get me a digital artist. I need a new Instagram filter. And he puts that thing on.
Yeah, right, because he's all digital and stuff. That'd be fun.
But hey, I did like at the end, they also seed that Thrawn was the one that recommended Vader oversee the Death Star, even though he's not in charge like Krennic and then later Tarkin is. Yeah. Like, no, at the very least, you need to have him there. And he is the most competent one there in Episode 4, so that does work, kind of.
Sure.
But to think Vader might not have been there, and you might not have ever had, Obi-Wan and Vader showdown and the Luke stuff, so it's a pretty prominent thing to have him be the one that puts that into motion.
Sure. No, I get you. And Thrawn, like, through these books, has a lot of connections to the Death Star, and it's mainly in ways that are him finding out and realizing and putting together things. And it's not that he's involved with the creation of it or anything. It's that he is smart and not just a fool of, like, I'll follow orders and ignore what's not mine. And he's always looking and putting things together and trying to figure out what the Emperor's up to.
And even though we know for a fact he has an ego, like, he almost never lets it affect him. Other than just like, I'm going to dominate my enemies, like there's a certain amount of ego and being able to say that you can do it in the first place. But in terms of like the Empire and what it can be or what it is, I feel like if Thrawn was in charge, the Empire wouldn't be that bad. I don't know exactly, but to put it on to Palpatine is nothing if not ego. right?
Sure, I get what you mean.
Like the Sith are egotistical in that we're taking all the power just for our master. The student needs to get above the master, and then that is transferred to him, right? And it's a matter of ego on top of ego on top of ego until you get to Palpatine, who says, "I will be Emperor of the Galaxy for thousands of years now,
forever."
You know, he even said at the end here, it's like it'll be nice, you know, maybe we can the Ascendancy and the Empire can join up and fight the Grisk, and then I can rule them both, you know. Like, he's nothing but ego. But there's a part of me that's like the way that Thrawn interacts with his crew, obviously not the things that he's doing and the orders that he's following, but the way he interacts with his crew feels very fair to me.
Sure.
You know?
Well,
I'm not saying the Empire would be good under him, because obviously I think we're going to get the Empire under him in future
we'll see
stuff.
what that's like. So,
but this version of Thrawn, if I had to pick, it would easily go to him.
Sure. And they even mention in this book, too, about how the Emperor, rather than like what Thrawn does, he will let his lackeys, subjects, whatever, like fight each other, and he's almost entertained by, you know, Savit's talking about like, oh well, Tarkin here has he wants to take over the Death Star, so he's trying to prove that he's a better administrator than Krennic is.
Yeah.
So he brings you in as his weapon to disprove that.
Yeah.
You know, like, and Emperor Palpatine's like, yes, okay, like it's just he's just watching it, be like, all right, have your game.
Yeah, I know.
It's just like, all right, I don't know.
And we know that while he's doing that, he's working on an even bigger Starkiller project.
Yeah.
Without telling anybody.
Yeah. Like, all right, well, we're going to make that, but also that's going to happen. We'll get that eventually.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He has so many things turning, but he doesn't tell anyone about anything. Whereas, I mean, Thrawn does it some. Like, he doesn't always tell people what's going on. But they also...
He always has a reason when he doesn't tell people.
Sure. And I liked Pharaoh's thing, too, where I think Ronan was, who was like, you always just follow your commander blindly. And it's like, well, no, I don't follow him blindly. And sometimes I question what he is, what he does. But I often... Is he always right? He's like, he's not always right, but usually when he's wrong, it's because he either had missing or faulty information.
Yeah.
But when he has like all the information, he makes really good decisions.
Which is the reason that he dismisses the other Grand Admiral's information that's given to him in the beginning of the book.
Yeah, because it was faulty. Because it didn't tell them that the whatever the gas was, I forget exactly what it was called, but there was a gas that's what the Grolix were after.
Yeah, it was like argon or something.
Yeah, and they were manipulating it. It was like Cardon 15 or something like that. But like they go and they feed on that, and then they were using that as an excuse to use their hyperdrives to take their ships out of the area so that they could go and get all the stuff off and make money.
It's pretty smart.
Yeah, no, especially with these Grolix. But I love that Thrawn caught on to a part where he was like, well, why do the Grolix do this? So that they're also stranded in space somewhere. It's like, seems very odd of them to do that. They don't have a food source anymore. They don't have their flock, you know, like...
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. They're crazy. They're just creatures. They do what they want. You know, like Ronan just dismisses it immediately, and Thrawn's like, that's weird for an animal to work against what their like habitat in nature would be. Like if they're doing that. So, I just thought it was an interesting thing. Like he's slowly piecing these things together, and also like when they start talking about the Grolix problem, Admiral Savit is the first one to be like, well, but the governor's already working on that. They've been doing that for years. Like, there's no way you're going to solve this in a week. You should not even try that. Like, he's really trying to dismiss a lot of it. And like, you know what? That makes a lot more sense that he's trying to dismiss this stuff once we find out that he's the reason that it's all happening. It's not the Grolix and stuff. So I thought it was interesting that there's little bits of him kind of like shoving it away or trying to like talk to Thrawn and cause like little like, well, Krennic and Tarkin are using you and you should be against them and not... and. So it's just he's playing the politics game, whereas he's like, Thrawn doesn't know politics at all. But
no, I also appreciate the way the book makes me appreciate the era a bit more. I feel like books that are in this era, the Dark Times, it's the Empire and then Seeds of Rebellion, and that's all you get.
Sure.
Whereas the Grisk and the Chiss are these unknown quantities in the unknown realm that we have no idea. They could be more powerful than the Empire.
Sure.
We have zero idea. There's certainly enough space for that type of thing, you know? I just love the idea that the Empire's not the only thing in the Dark Times that you can tell stories about.
Sure.
And that's why I'm super excited for the Ascendancy trilogy whenever we do end up getting to that.
I also like that a lot of this, too, was Thrawn having to fight, throughout the whole trilogy, was that he also had to fight a lot of Imperial backlash. Not just like, well, here it is him fighting rebellions. You know, because it makes it harder to root on, like, these guys are trying to fight against tyranny. and here comes Thrawn to take them all out.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it makes it harder to root on Thrawn.
He
for
has to go
those,
through
but-
xenophobia. He has to go through all these other hardships. But
Yeah. But then he tries to come out as like a better Imperial than like the
Yeah.
typical Imperial, right? It's kind of that ego thing you talk about, like how many different Imperial admirals or commanders or whatever have like that ego of like, I can do whatever I want, I will get it done right.
Yeah.
Like, who are you to tell me what I need to do? I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
Like, they all kind of have that. I think about like Constantine and stuff
Yeah.
like that too, where like they always feel like they know better, and it's their ego as well, similar to like Palpatine.
I love that Thrawn uses the what's it called, the Marge Sable.
Yeah.
He uses Ahsoka's move. That's awesome. He
Yeah.
just recognizes when it's a good move, and now he's like known for it.
Yeah. We watched him learn it, right?
Yeah, from Anakin.
I think from the Anakin in
Yeah.
the second book thing, but then he used it again in this book and stuff too, which is, it's just really cool to see
Yeah.
like that progress of his, and now
Yeah.
he's known for it. No, I like that.
Yeah.
I love in the battle against Savit where they have like Savit launches ties at him, and they shoot missiles at the ties to stop the ties. But because he said no bloodshed, they then precision shot all the missiles they shot and cause a big puff of smoke with debris and stuff in it that the TIE fighters then
Yeah.
fly through and damage their ships, and now they can't fight anymore.
Yeah.
But no one died, no ships blew up, and even
I
the
don't
ones
think
that
they
were
did.
gonna crash into the Chimera, they tractor beamed.
Yeah.
I think they sent the codes or the information.
They sent the precise location
Yeah.
for the tractor beam.
Yeah, to Savit's ship
Yeah.
and had him do it. And I was like, not
Uh-huh.
him, but their men. And I thought that, man, he's thought everything out. He's
Yeah.
gotten everything he needs with this. And I was like, I told you no bloodshed.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like, oh, it's so good.
No, it was crazy because at one point, like, they're firing ion blasts at each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Thrawn has perfectly guessed what was going to happen, so much so that when the blasts intersect and hit each other, the Chimera actually fires it and it impacts closer to this one. I mean, they fired first. They had to, right?
They're
I don't-
shooting before?
The iron blast, I'm assuming, traveled the same distance at the same
Speed, same
you
rate.
know? So that's how much he played him. And I also like how Thrawn's like, I don't quite like music, but, you know. It's like, well, just because he doesn't like it doesn't mean he's not going to analyze it. Have you seen the man?
Yeah.
So that was fun, too.
Which I like them talking about that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
I just like, I think it was in the first book with Eli as well,
Yeah.
where he's like, look, I got these pictures so that we could analyze. It's like, well, these don't help. But it's continuing that idea of
Yeah.
like him studying art or music, culture, and all these things to learn his enemy and figure out what they do and how they work and operate and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's just things that other Imperials don't do, which I think is why I like him a lot, because he like really tries to understand his enemies, I suppose. And sometimes it works towards him trying to like, I don't know. I think there's something here where like there's a world where he might have went and tried to recruit Hera for the Chiss. You know what I mean? Like seeing how intelligent she is and such a good fighter she is, and how maybe she
Yeah.
could be beneficial for the Chiss if it could work that way. But
Yeah.
usually it seems like the people who have been with him on his side more, not against.
Yeah.
But I also liked, speaking of her, there's a conversation that he has, I think, with Faro, where they're discussing, like, I think Governor Price will mess up. They surely will come get Harris and Syndulla, and they're going to lose Syndulla, and that's going to be a mess. He's like, yes, but losing the Defender program would be a bigger blow. And I was like, oh, man.
Dude, like, yeah, Price screwed that up.
Yeah.
She had all of the stuff with Kanan Jarrus on top of it, and she's like, blow up the stuff.
And throw a parade. And I'm like, oh, my gosh.
Oh, Price.
So there's just those elements where I'm like, it kind of hurts to know what's coming and stuff too. But
Yeah.
they were definitely like fun listens to get through.
They
and,
were.
like learn more about Thrawn.
I feel like I know about the canon version a lot more, and even
Sure.
if that doesn't rear its head in stuff that he's going to be appearing in with live action, like
Sure,
I still
or Pelion, right?
Pelion,
Because
yeah.
like we had him show up
In
not too long
Mandalorian.
ago, and a little bit on Lothal.
Yeah,
but
you hear his voice. on
yeah,
Lothal.
yeah, that's what it was.
Yep.
And then here we have him on the Harbinger, and
I'm
then it's like
excited for
he's
that.
also going to go to Lothal with you. And like, oh, okay,
Yep.
yeah, this makes sense. So, but it's weird because it's like I don't feel like he's been with him that much, but
No,
maybe he's been with him more than I think. I don't know.
I mean we have some time. I don't know what's all going to happen there. I mean, I loved Pelion in the old Legends. He actually ends up surviving and leading part of the Empire. That's like, well, those Empire guys are like, because it splits off into remnants and warlords and stuff, and they defeat almost everybody. But Pelion's Empire is pretty good and actually joins the Galactic Alliance. So he's like, he has like Imperial Star Destroyers and stuff, but they're for the good guys later in the Legends and stuff. So I've always liked him for that and everything. And he becomes like the military leader of the Galactic Alliance too, or one of them with Akbar. So cool. I've always liked him. It's cool to see him in here, but yeah, it does feel like there's a big opportunity to develop him more, but I also kind of feel like Eli's taken that role a little bit. So, much like, Kyle Katarn, his stories get kind of like, cut up and given to other characters. I feel like Pellion's kind of had the same thing happen to him. But we'll see. I mean, like you said, he did appear in The Mandalorian.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that character. I hope it's done well, maybe. But yeah, I think this book, for the most part, I enjoy it as a conclusion to like filling out where Thrawn has been. Yeah. I don't know if when doing all this, if they had kind of planned out like gaps in his story from like Rebels to give him spots for these books, or if it's just kind of like we made a gap, but you can fill it in if you want to.
Zahn had a little bit of freedom, but he did have some notes like he couldn't use Ahsoka.
Sure, yeah, I'd heard about that one from our last one, right? Because he was wanting to use her instead of Anakin, I think it was. But like when they left, it's like, okay, this is where we're gonna put in this next story, or what we're gonna do. Like, I just wonder how much of that could have been planned out, or how much of it was like, okay, well, here's what I have to work with. He has 1 week.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like, okay, 1 week. What did he do? Grolix. But speaking of Grolix too, it's neat to have more of the like space creatures, right? Like we have Purgo, and then we've had Minox inside like asteroids and stuff, and the big asteroid worm, whatever that thing's called. I don't know what it's called, but like we've seen those, and this is just having another creature that flies
Exogorth
through space itself, right? And like eats on electricity or does whatever it wants to do, and I'm like, that's cool to kind of fill space as well, because like I always think of space as just the void of nothing, but here we kind of have like, well, there's other things that are traveling through it as well, not just people on hyperspace lanes and stuff.
Yeah, and I also like how various factions can work, like, Admiral Aralani can, even if she's not familiar with Imperial ways of doing things, she can still be like, well, I know physics, I know how space works, and can still contribute, even if she's unfamiliar with the processes and the technology they have, which is cool. You don't get a lot of that in Star Wars.
Yeah. What'd you think of Aralani?
I liked her. I'm curious why Eli keeps bringing up the idea of like, it feels, what is with Thrawn and her? They had to have some connection.
Were you waiting for like, there was a final conversation they had in the book too, and I'm like, are they gonna say they're related?
I thought it was gonna be like, and by the way,
kiss each other.
Vanto, this is my wife.
Yeah.
Aralani.
Yeah.
I really did think something was gonna happen.
Whenever they were having that conversation, I'm like, okay, this is the time now. Thrawn was gonna do it. This is when you're gonna like Thrawn has a sister. Thrawn has a wife. Thrawn has, whatever it is. And then they didn't do any of that. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, maybe next time. I don't know. But I was wondering that, too, because of Eli working with Thrawn so much, I'm like, he seems to pick up on a lot of stuff. And he seems to be an intelligent guy. And that's why Thrawn sent him here. Yeah. What is he on to? He must be on to something. But then we never got that answer. And I was like, oh, what was he on to?
It has to have something to do with the Skywalker thing, right? The navigators. I mean,
and we talked about that last time, right? Like, was Thrawn a Skywalker? Is that why he's kind of so intelligent? Does he still have a little bit of like third sight or something?
Did he love somebody, like a relative that was, and then got sacrificed or whatever they do with those? Primarily young girls.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm curious to see, and I don't know if we will. I don't know if the other trilogy covers any of that. Maybe it will. I assume it must be in the past. Yeah. Right? Like when he was with the Chiss.
That's what I would assume too.
So going into that, maybe you get Aralani in that. Like we won't have Eli or any of the Imperials, but we'll have more Chiss, maybe more Grisk and that kind of thing. And we'll see like where he was before he came and met the Empire. Yeah. And maybe that will give us more information on maybe who Aralani is or why he is like he is or whatever.
I mean, I certainly want more context to the small glimpses we get when they talk about how the Chiss families are battling and warring in a way, and it seems like there's a civil war happening. Yeah. So what are the causes of that? That might be interesting to see, and I wonder if that will factor into any of the future Thrawn appearances that we might see in live action or not.
Sure.
If maybe the Ascendancy is not around anymore.
Maybe not.
The Civil War could destroy it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope not.
Or the Grisk.
Yeah.
I did like. man, how was it described? Like they were like inside like an asteroid, the Grisk,
Yeah.
and they like busted out of an asteroid and started attacking.
Yeah.
But
No,
then
that was
I
nuts.
thought it was cool that like the Chimera and the Steadfast were like fighting together against it, and they were like, "We'll do this. Okay, you cover them. Now stop fighting. Let them take out that." And like they weren't communicating, but in the fight they were like dancing and like understanding each other's movements and motions and what was happening. And I just thought that was a neat like description and also a neat process of them fighting like two Chiss admirals who are fairly intelligent and good at what they do.
I mean, Eli says it, I think, as comfort to Vanya, but there might be a little truth there, too. It's like, well, you get those two together, there's nothing they can't figure out or do. I mean, I loved that Thrawn is having, like, a 3 or 4 hour session on board the one ship trying to, like, figure things out, and they're like, hey, I think there are, like, invisible bombs coming, like, in 4 hours. He's like, convene all of the staff members. You'll figure it out. And then he just goes back to it, That was fun, too.
Dude, yeah, invisible bombs.
Yeah.
And then like the one where, what exactly was it? Where they were like passing something in between the ships.
Yeah, what was that again?
Like they were passing a thing, and like someone was just like
frequency or something. They said?
Well, the frequency was about the shields that they had,
Yeah.
right? So they could tell like if we mess with their frequencies, it'll mess with their shields and
Yeah.
stuff too. But it was just interesting, like these invisible things they have, and they're looking. I think it was a generator. I think is what it was. Oh, and speaking of different things that they notice and do, like they had that slingshot maneuver thing they did,
Yeah,
where like
that was
they
cool.
used the tractor beam to help like launch a ship.
Yeah, that was pretty
like
cool.
really far.
Yeah.
Like in my head, what I started picturing was like a Star Destroyer, like using a tractor beam really far, but then like spinning
Just
like this,
spinning and
just
throwing
being
it.
like, just chuck it. But I don't think that's the
That
process
feels like an
exactly. But
Expanse
that's how
move.
I was picturing it. Was
Yeah.
like, that sounds cool, because like it doesn't feel very fast when it turns, but when it's way out here being taken,
Yeah.
you just throw them over there. Like what was it with Savitz, where they slingshot them over there,
Yeah.
and then they waited, and then let them come back in. And I was like, well, it's just a neat maneuver.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean, if anything, the only real complaint I had was that, well, Thrawn just did everything he set out to do, said he was going to do, and he did it. And that's how it worked. There wasn't, like, in terms of, like, strife, I never ever doubted that he wasn't going to get what he needed to get done.
Sure.
I mean, to be fair, he would have to, right, because he's got around. He's not dead or anything, but, yeah, I just thought it was a complete and utter humiliating defeat by Savit.
Sure. But then also, Thrawn lost the bet in the end, right?
Well, yeah.
They did that thing where it's
technically
like,
he
well,
didn't solve
the
pro-
Grolic
yeah.
problem.
Yeah, he did.
I was like, so they're like, so he's going to get your money.
Uh-huh.
I was like, well, I guess it's good because he just lost it all anyway.
Yeah.
So no wonder he was so mad because what he did have is gone, and the
Sure.
money he would have gotten is gone.
Yeah.
So he's like, I got nothing.
That was bullcrap.
Yeah.
If I was there, I don't think I could have held my tongue.
I think I was dumb.
Like
but
Pharaoh
all right.
was about ready to do something. I was like, get in there, Pharaoh. Get him.
Yeah. No.
She was all upset that he like left without her scolding him.
Yeah. No, that was frustrating. I was like, man, come on. He solved a problem you didn't even know you had. That was the
Yeah.
root of the problem that you had.
Yeah.
These Grolics, let him eat some electricity. It's fine. It's not going to hurt
Sure.
your ships that bad. But yeah.
Fun book, fun trilogy.
Yeah.
Very much enjoyed it. I'm glad that we got it under our belt, but we have another trilogy eventually. I'm not sure when we'll get to that.
No, I don't know either exactly. Because, I mean, there's so many books we're behind on. And that's one of the things, too. I know, like, we're probably asking these questions and thinking out loud about different thoughts from this book and the trilogy. And everyone else is like, we've already read those books. The answers we know. Get to the books. And I'm
That's
like,
true. There's going to be some people that are catching up with us,
like,
though, too.
so-
Because the Star Wars lexicon is vast.
There's a
and
lot,
It
sure.
can be intimidating. So there are some people that are just following along with the books, and we'll eventually catch up, or we won't. And it won't be
Sure.
the worst thing in the world. But
No.
we're trying.
But it's fun to be able to, like, take these journeys with some of these books and then be able to talk about them and stuff,
Yeah.
too. And, like, what kind of questions do you have with this or that? So I think that would be really neat to do.
Yeah.
Like, just getting through more of it. So we'll get to them.
Yeah.
We'll get more answers in
We
the
will.
future at some point.
And I need to, because I need to always hear more Mark Thompson as Thrawn.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. I was, what was it? It might have been on a Wikipedia thing or whatever. Because sometimes I'm like trying to look at like characters and stuff about things.
Sure.
There was one thing I found, and I just thought about this, but Deja, right?
Yeah.
Deja was in an old Thrawn book as well.
Oh, really?
I don't remember what it was called, but it was another. There was,
An
a,
Heir
it
to
was
the-
an old Legends book. It wasn't one of the Heir to the Empire books.
Okay.
I don't know how many more Legends Star Wars books he's written. But it was a character that they pulled from one of those. I don't know if he
Okay.
was the same kind of character or what, but I don't even know what to look up when I was doing it. But I just saw something where it had like a Legends category.
That's
and
cool.
like he was from another not Thrawn book.
Nice.
Thrawn. No. What's his name? Zahn.
Zahn. Timothy Zahn. Yeah.
He's from another Zahn book.
That's cool.
In the past.
No,
so.
I liked him. I thought he could fit into other stories pretty easy if you want to bring a character like that
Yeah,
back.
I hope we see more of that character. And I don't know if they were the same character in that. If they were, I want to see more of that story too, because I think that would be really cool.
He was in Scoundrels.
Scoundrels, okay. So Timothy Zahn wrote a book called Scoundrels, and he was something in that. At least the name was.
Gotcha.
So it might be kind of like how Pelion, right? He's from Heir to the Empire, but feels a little different in this book than that book.
Okay.
But
I never heard of
cool.
Scoundrels by Tim Zahn, so.
Yeah, I just saw a thing about him having like another book, but
Okay.
I couldn't remember what it was. But yeah, thank you for the info.
Thank you so much, and thank you guys for checking out the review of this book and this trilogy. And again, we're going to be checking out Ahsoka for the next one.
Yeah.
So that'll be exciting.
I'm excited for that one. Yeah, the book is really fun, especially since it's read by Ashley.
Yeah.
So it's like having her voice
That's
again,
cool.
going through it and everything.
Yep.
So it'll be good. And since I've already kind of listened to it, I'm hoping the refresher, I'll be like, oh, yeah. Like now I got a good grasp on everything if I missed anything before.
I'm actually, this isn't too bad because the world is about to get a whole lot of Ahsoka, but not a whole lot of Ashley Eckstein. So
Yeah.
I'm glad we're doing it.
Yeah, put some Ashley in there.
'Cause
So.
There used to be a time where those two names were synonymous for me, and even though Ahsoka as a character is growing and expanding and is going to be loved by a lot more people, it's really cool that Ashley got to narrate that book. That's cool.
Sure, yeah.
I kind of wish they did more of that type of thing.
It's kind of like
Imagine a Qui-Gon book narrated by Liam Neeson.
I would love it. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
They should do that.
That would be great.
I'd be fine with any book narrated by people who have played those
A
characters. in the past or
Palpatine
something.
book by Ian McDermott.
Oh my gosh! Even if they like did a Darth Plagueis book and it was just
Plagueis
him reading
That
through
would
it,
be
like,
good.
I'd be okay with that,
that would
too.
Be cool.
I'd love that.
I love that idea.
So yeah,
All right.
There's the Thrawn trilogy. Some of our thoughts. We are going to look through some questions. We have a Q&A section that's opened up, and
Yep.
we will look through and talk about some of those. Some of them may be Thrawn related, but we may hit up some questions that aren't Thrawn related as well.
Sure.
So just make sure you put in like a good question. Alrighty. What do we have here? Interesting from Fabian. What do you think Thrawn's attitude towards the Sith Order?
Oh,
What do you think is
okay.
Thrawn's attitude towards the Sith Order?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that he was impressed by Vader, but there is a point at the end of the second book where he's like, "I've already thought of 4 ways I could take you out." So yeah, how scared is he? I mean, obviously he swore fealty to Palpatine. I think he's impressed by Palpatine because Palpatine has like Sith magic in place of what Thrawn has to do, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that necessarily would impress him or not, but I think that at the very least he would have been impressed that the Sith did everything they did with 2 people. Right?
Sure, yeah.
Like the plan, it's a good plan. It works really well, and Palpatine becomes, the number 1 guy in the galaxy for 20 years. It's not too bad, So I think that he'd be impressed by the Sith, but I don't think that he necessarily bothers to understand exactly what it takes to what the Force is.
Sure. I would be curious to see, and we don't really get it in any of this, but minus the Force powers of things, I'd love to see the intellect of Palpatine versus the intellect of Thrawn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just like they're playing some kind of games against each other, and it's not about the Force or anything. It's just about, like, we've always talked about how much has Palpatine planned versus how much does he just kind of, like, wing and correct whenever things happen, right? Like, did he plan for this to happen, and then he just had this already set up and ready, or was it like he modified what his plan was going to be?
Sure, right.
Like I'm trying to think of a specific situation, but there's been several of those kind of situations that have occurred.
It's just like the Jedi. He can see the future, but he knows the future is always changing.
Sure.
So he can plan, and then he has the advantage. Like Thrawn needs to find how things can be figured out. Palpatine can sense how things are figured out.
Sure, yeah.
So he has the advantage, but he also has the incredible power, and he's incredibly ruthless. And that's generally how Thrawn can get around people. Like, they're not as ruthless as he can be. Not so with Palpatine.
Sure.
So, yeah, that would be an interesting duel of wills, I think.
Yeah. Well, because, like, with Vader, like, you kind of see them going, like, head-to-head in different aspects, right?
Yeah.
Where, like, Vader's like, why are we waiting on doing this? This is 7 times you failed.
Yeah.
And then eventually like, okay, I got this now. Here it is.
Sure.
And I've solved it. And Vader's like, oh, I wouldn't have solved that.
Yeah.
He would have maybe brute forced something or made it through something other ways. But it just having them together more would have been an interesting thing of how they pair off. Or,
Sure.
I'm always wondering, like, does Palpatine, did he already know about this conspiracy? Is that why he made sure Thrawn came? Did he expect this to occur?
Yeah.
And if so, why didn't he stop it a long time ago?
Yeah, sure.
So just things like that.
I think really it'll eventually come down to ego, and it'll come down to like Palpatine. What is he willing to sacrifice? He'll sacrifice anybody, just
Sure.
not himself.
Yeah.
Thrawn, I feel like, will sooner sacrifice himself over like certain people sometimes.
Sure.
He'll like his crew, like he protects his crew. He wants them to be safe and get better. Like I feel like Palpatine doesn't have that weakness.
Yeah, I suppose so. But like he's losing so much money in this process, so that's why I'm kind of like, did he know? Is that why he sent Thrawn? Because he knew there was a conspiracy happening?
Yeah.
And if he did know, why did he let it go on for years and let it bleed all this money? Like,
Yeah.
I just wonder, like,
Or it's just not very important to him.
yeah, or he just didn't care. He was too busy with Starkiller. And it was the same thing they said about Krennic, right? The only person who would have figured this out was Krennic, but he was too busy running everything.
You do get the feeling that Palpatine like gives certain people power, and then just like he'll give Tarkin power, and then Tarkin suddenly has all these enemies, and Palpatine likes to watch. Like I get that feeling.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like let the rabble like fight for the scraps that I give them. Is kind of what it feels like.
Like, did he know, like, the issues of the Death Star, that Luke Skywalker would have blown it up? Like, did he have any of these kind of premonitions of this kind of stuff?
If he did, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise you if he came out and was like, actually, I saw all that.
Well, and if he did, why didn't he stop it? Or is it like you said,
Yeah.
like he just wants to watch his little, the little things
Sure.
he's caused happen? He's not that concerned
I mean,
with it.
he saw everything but the return of Anakin Skywalker. In his mind, that wasn't possible.
Yeah.
So that's really the only thing. And why it had to be Luke and it had to be Anakin, right?
Sure. Yeah. But anyway, thank you, Fabian.
Good question. Let's see. What else do we have here? We have... Just trying to read one real quick.
DTIII, Daniel. It says, what's your favorite old LucasArts video game from 2000 to 2010?
2000 to 2010?
Let's see. What else in that area? KOTOR's in that, right?
Yeah.
I think the Starfighter and Jedi Starfighter are probably in that area too.
I would say that
right?
our best Star Wars video game list that we made a while ago still applies.
Probably for the most part.
Yours would probably be Starfighter and Jedi Starfighter.
I
and
definitely
mine would be
played
Jedi
those
Outcast.
a lot.
Yeah.
So I would say probably those. Check those out. But otherwise, up until 2010, I'm trying to remember what's in that area. But I think that probably covers most of those. And there's a lot of good Star Wars games. I loved. I don't know about Rogue Squadron on N64. That might have been before 2000.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed that game a lot too.
Yeah.
So.
12cat has a question. This month I was thinking, in canon, we only have one comic for Anakin between episodes 2 and 3. Legends has a bunch of stories, but what stories about Anakin do you think they could tell during that time? I mean, we have a bunch of Clone Wars stories in between those times with Anakin, but if I was trying to pick a story that I would like to see around that time period, I always loved the closer Anakin got to the subject of slavery, the more interesting and understandable understanding I have for him in his short temper and his quest for vengeance over peace, right? So anytime I can get Anakin dealing with slave stories, I think I want to see that more. Because like slavery is one of those things where it's like, undoubtedly this is an evil thing and you should do whatever you can to stop it. And whatever Anakin can do is a lot darker than what this Jedi can do or this Jedi can do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And especially if you go into the slavery idea of things, he has that personal connection more so.
Yeah.
Rather than if you sent, I don't know, Obi-Wan, right? Obi-Wan's going to respond differently than that. Yeah, I don't have a ton of stories that I feel like, oh man, it'd be great to see this because...
And 12cat specifically is saying between 1 and 2, not 2 and 3. So they changed it. They messed up.
Oh, so episodes 1 and 2 then.
Gotcha. So younger
Okay.
Anakin before knighthood with stories. I mean, honestly, Padawan Anakin dealing with slavery stuff, I think would still be very interesting.
Sure. Well, and there's some cool stories where, like, Jedi Apprentice, where it was Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan was really cool. So, like, getting an idea of, like, here's Obi-Wan and Anakin could be really cool.
Yeah.
There was that mess with the Gundarks, right?
The nests.
Yeah.
Yep.
He fell in that nest of Gundarks, Master. Like, I want to see what that story is,
Sure.
you know? I don't know too many specific situations that I'd be like, oh, this would be really good to see. Maybe, I mean, we saw his, like, first time in a starfighter, you know, and the Naboo starfighter. So, like, even being like, oh, his first time in a Jedi starfighter would be really cool, but not even that necessarily. Maybe something lightsabery, because, like, he grew being, like, a really good fighter, and Obi-Wan was a really good fighter, too, so I feel like they're both, like, great swordsmen, sabersmen. So, I don't know. But there's nothing specific that jumps out where I'm like, in between this time, this.
What else? We need like a Jedi Padawan tournament arc.
Tournament arc would be cool.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, do that.
Show Anakin like beating, some Jedi Padawans or something, and then then he has to fight Yoda.
Yeah.
And he gets humbled. Yeah, that'd be kind of fun.
That's train with like Sindralig.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be cool. Like have like Anakin versus Sindralig when he was young, and then mirror that with Anakin or Vader versus Sindralig later.
Yeah, after episode 3
That would be kind of cool.
Order 66. That could be really cool.
Yeah.
Rayan Wasim. Guys, love from India. Did you guys also feel that Thrawn was a little frustrated with all the things going on, Grisks and Chiss and Palpatine, just annoying, or could that be the reason he was ruthless in Rebels?
Yeah. I mean, he is very. I mean, Rebels season 4 is the most ruthless we see him. Like, I feel like as a character ever, right?
Sure.
Because he is firing on civilians, and I personally don't see the Thrawn in the books doing that.
You know what? I mean, maybe here, like you have, like he just went through all this. He lost the money for his
Price,
TIE Defender program. Governor Price has destroyed everything he had left with the Defender program. Like maybe he's like, you know what? I am mad, and I'm unleashing.
Yeah.
And also, he was told by Palpatine to get Ezra on board his ship. So he really has to force the hand of Ezra to get on the ship, right? So
I guess so.
Maybe it's a mixture of that too, right? Because in the first book, not Bot 2, but whatever the other planet was, when Governor Price just blew everything up, right? He was like, get people down there for rescue. Save people. We're not going down there for a war. We're going down there to protect and help as many people as we can from this tragedy. Ugh.
I loved it.
I couldn't get it out.
Good for you.
But
tragedy.
It's such a different aspect from when you get in Rebels, but you don't have where he's been pushing a TIE Defender program to try to stop the Death Star that could be used to kill millions of people, be used against the Chiss. Now he's lost the funding for his program. More funding's going to the Death Star that he's against. And what he did have with the Defender program has been destroyed by Governor Price and these rebels that came in. Maybe he doesn't know it's as much of Governor Price's fault as it is, but he could be a little angry with all that. So maybe there's some reasons why he's like, I am willing to shoot down on this to get you here to do the thing and make Palpatine happy so I can get my Defender program back. You know, maybe that's what his thoughts are. I don't know. So I could definitely see him being frustrated by a number of things.
Rodney says, I'm ready for Phase 3 of the High Republic. I mean, we still got to get through Phase 1 of the High Republic.
Yeah, Phase 3 is coming
I'm
soon.
happy for you, though.
We're 2 books in, I think.
Yeah, we got to get back on that.
So, but I mean, there's just so much.
We've been talking, because I think the next thing we got to do for High Republic is some comic books, and we've been talking about...
There's another little book first.
Another little book. There's some
forget
comics.
what it's called.
We have a loose plan on how we want to handle comic books, and I'm excited to get to it.
Yeah. So we'll get into more High Republic here soon at some point. And they may, depending on what it is, some of the comic stuff may just be on Wave Squadron here, but not necessarily on Badonkagonk itself.
Yeah.
So, at least for comic stuff anyway. Most of the big book stuff we'll cover.
Sure. DT3, did you guys ever read Jango Fett Open Season? Some of my favorite pre-episode 2 stuff. at the time. I loved pairing that with the Bounty Hunter game. I believe that was a comic book.
I never played the game either.
Yeah, I think it was a comic book. It had like a younger Dooku in it, I think. But if I did, it was a very long time ago, and I don't remember
Really?
much of Open Seasons.
The Bounty Hunter
I
game.
Jaster Mareel in it, right?
I want to say the Bounty Hunter game originally came out on GameCube.
Yeah.
And I never had a
yeah,
GameCube.
yeah.
Eventually, it came out on like PS2 and other stuff too, but I just never got it after that point. So,
Yeah.
But no, it looked like it was cool. I just never played it,
Gotcha.
and I never read the comics for it either. Then,
Yeah.
or the comics connected there.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'll have to. Yeah, it was a comic run. Okay, I'll have to look at that again because I seem to remember. Like I remember the visual art style of the comic, so but I can't remember much of the storyline. Jaster.
Darkwing.
Yeah, Darkwing.
Darkwing says, of all 3 books in the trilogy, which plot did you enjoy the most? I want to say either 1 or 2, either Alliances or the original Thrawn. The original Thrawn I thought it covered a lot of time, but it really established who Thrawn was. I love the building of the relationship with Eli. I had a lot of fun with that, and I felt like there was a lot of things going on. This one was shoved into like a lot smaller time frame. And I also didn't feel like I had as much towards the end where I was like, ooh, I wonder what we're going to happen next, you know? Whereas the first one, I had a lot more questions and stuff. I'm like, man, we could fit some stuff in here. I love Anakin and Vader book.
Yeah, I think story-wise, the Anakin second book is my favorite, Anakin Vader book. But in terms of the actual content and the listening experience, it was definitely the first.
Sure.
Like in terms of like, if I'm comparing the book descriptions to each other, I think I'd be more interested. Ooh, this one,
Anakin and Vader. That sounds really good. No, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I like that, and also it felt like it was like an episode of Clone Wars, and an episode of Rebels in one book, just because like we're jumping back here with Anakin and we're going here with. It was really cool. Yeah. So no, I get what you mean. I think plot wise, that one might be my favorite. You're right.
Okay.
But I think I love the overall story of the other one maybe more, because there's a couple plots in that, right? Like you kind of like. Like I said, there's like those time jumps. So it's kind of like, here's this. Now we kind of take care of this. Now we jump ahead. Now we have this issue. And they kind of interweave a little bit.
And to your point of like, sometimes the Padme parts in the second book would drag. But I personally found the parts with Terrace, or not Terrace Governor, the governor of Lothal.
Governor Price?
Price, yeah. I personally found some of Price's stuff to drag a little more than Padme's for me. So
Sure.
But I think I still prefer the first one. Rodney, have you ever thought of having your own Star Wars trivia contest on Wave Squadron? Honestly, I mean, that would be kind of cool. I know a lot of people that are really good at trivia, way better than I am. The Schmodown doesn't exist anymore, so
Gotcha.
There's no Star Wars version of that. That would be kind of fun because even though I really did enjoy like doing studying, and I think I enjoyed making questions for myself more.
Sure.
I think that making the questions can sometimes be easier than answering them.
Sure. Yeah.
Just because it's hard to, like, unless you really, really know it, it's hard to come up with a good question that's not impossible.
No, I get
Some questions are just impossible, and they're not fun to answer. But some questions are designed in a way where it's like you have to have the trivia, but you have to think about it a little bit too.
Sure.
So
there's some things that are just very, very obscure. That's like you have to deep dive to get to any of this, and it's not like a thing that you typically get from just watching and enjoying the lore. It's like, all right, I got to research everybody in this book or in this show or in this whatever, and it gets. Yeah, it can be daunting, right?
It can be. But it also would be cool to do, like, specific, like, we're going to be doing Star Wars Rebels trivia for this match or something. But, like the Schmodown would have, like, little segments, but maybe you could have more themed matches or something. That way, you don't have to tell contestants, hey, research all of Star Wars.
Sure.
You could say, hey, watch Rebels,
yeah.
To prepare. And it's not an all-consuming your entire life. Because the people that were at the very top of the Schmodown game, like Andrew DiMolanta, like you said, like to perform at this, I have to pretty much destroy the rest of my life, and he had to take a break because it was so much,
Sure.
So I wouldn't want to do that, but it would be fun to do trivia either on Badonkagonk or at a convention or something.
The next thing too is like, well, who are the contestants?
Yeah.
Like, who do you make questions for?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we can do certain levels, but if we wanted to go to the best, I mean, I have because of the Schmodown in my in some DMs, I have some people that we could get if we want the best of the best, sir.
Sir, it's Sam Witwer.
We can get Sam. Sam did very well. Yeah.
Yes, Sam Witwer. I'm sorry, I said Sam Witwer. Sorry, God.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Gunnar Hesh says, do you guys plan on reading Shadow of the Sith by Adam Christopher? I really enjoyed that book. Or do you guys have any Legends material in mind that you'd like to read for Badonkagonk?
Absolutely, we're going to cover it. I think right now it's just a matter of when, because I think there's some material we need to cover before we get to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that was actually going to be one of the books that we selected early on in Badonkagonk when it was coming out, just so we could try to have some more current stuff, for people that are. But there's a reason it's current. It's because it comes after a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, I know. No, there's a lot of books that we want to read too, but we're trying to get them through in an order where, things aren't either. They either don't jump out of nowhere, or like if they're established somewhere else, we already have that stuff established, or a character, or whatever it is. So sometimes we go a little bit out of order, but we're trying to not go too crazy. And we've been told like there's some more information we can get from other stuff.
Yeah.
But I definitely am looking forward to that one.
Me too.
I think I know which one that is. As far as Legends stuff, there has been some Legends talk that we've had. We may read that, but we will talk about that next Badonkagonk.
Yep.
Especially if we end up going with it or not.
Yep.
Right. Oh, make sure what time we are so we're good. No, we still got a little bit of time. We can take another question or two at least. Depends how long we talk about it.
Yeah, let's get through as many as we can.
Garachi, how do the Grisk so completely take control of other species? Would you prefer to find out about them in a book series or a live action or somehow both?
Yeah, I mean, the indoctrination process, right? Generally, that takes a long time. You gotta start when they're young. You have to, create the holes that they fill later in life, and hopefully that's you, or that's what you want them to do. But it seems like the Grisk do it in a way that, like, weren't the people talking about they were like grabbing like their heads or something and having like those clicks or something? I don't know. Maybe they're doing some type of like visual or audible input to hypnotize you in a way.
That could be interesting.
And maybe it's like trying to add non-hive mind brains to more of a hive mind.
Sure. Like my first time like thinking about these creatures, which was in the second book, I think, right? Like I had kind of like a buggy feeling about them, and you could have some bug stuff maybe involving in that. Or what was it the Geonosians did, right? Where they had like that. There's that bug thing they had, and then it came around and took over more stuff and whatnot. Like maybe there's some kind of thing that takes over, or you can break them out of it. Hypnotism's a neat idea too, where it's like you could have a clicking and a touching aspect that eventually just they get confused and just kind of fall in line.
I mean, that one Grisk was like, I am the light bringer, the death dealer. They really think highly of themselves, but it might be because they have some type of ability to literally dominate lesser species.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know.
In the same way that I don't understand why Tordarians can't be mind tricked. There's just something different about them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Only money.
Yeah. Maybe Tordarians can't be taken over by the Grisk.
Yeah, maybe.
That'd be interesting. Like Tordarians and Hutts can't do it.
I would like it to not more information on the Grisk to be in neither.
Yeah.
I want it to be in a game.
In a game.
Yeah, because I think like going into like some of the live action kind of aspects and stuff, it might be too out there maybe at first. But I think maybe putting it into a game could be something that would be a neat addition first, where it's like, we're going out there real far, we see these Grisk, we have to fight the Grisk for some reason. And then maybe you start adding it into like TV shows or movies or books or comics or whatever.
I like that idea.
That's what I like that. All right, what's this? Natalie Speaks. If you could bring one of the very silly things in today's Legends versus made-up game into canon, what would it be? Eric can also bring up a random silly thing from Legends if he wants to.
So if I can bring in a random silly thing from the game that we played, certainly not Triclops. I wouldn't go with George Banks.
Now, is it the things that are from Legends, or is it the silly things? Because I want the R2-3PO like combination droid.
I made that up.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Can I choose those?
Sure, you can choose whatever you want that I've made up.
Versus the bubblegum planet?
The bubblegum planet that they hate. They start eating the planet.
Like I would choose that. I want to see them. I want a 3PO with like R2D2 armor.
Yeah.
You know, like that would be really cool.
Yeah.
His arms, maybe they split like that one Ralph McQuarrie looking droid, right? Where
the
like their arms get
infiltrator.
really crazy, and like you have like the saw blades and the shocky arms and stuff, and it's like, but it's like a 3PO that's like merged with this R2D2 and a little R2D2 head on top of him or something like.
Sure.
That'd be sweet. There you go. I want
That's
that.
not a bad one.
And it's a boss that you have to fight at some point.
I would say Jackson, but they brought Jackson into canon now.
The rabbit?
Bring Jackson into live action. That would be nuts. The Green Rabbit from the Marvel comics. Back when they were like, Star Wars is silly, no one cares. We're gonna do a Green Rabbit. And then
All right.
I say Jackson.
There's Jackson from the Legends canon. Any other Legends stuff that I would want them to bring in? There was one of the Legends things I know. It's not really silly though, but it was another one of those. Nah, I don't know if I want it. It was the like Planet Cracker. It was another one of those like super weapons.
The Sun Crusher.
Is that what it was called? Sun Crusher.
Sun Crusher is a little silly because it's the size of a starfighter.
Yeah, but it was like it looked like a drill or something, right?
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, it's like vertical. Kip Duran blows up a star, destroys an entire system. Never really recovers from that.
Yeah. Like kind of Star Killer is kind of like that and Death Star kind of combined, right?
Definitely.
In a way, because it like absorbs a nova or whatever, or a star or whatever, and blasts these planets.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Sun Crusher just had like a special missile that you just fire into a sun and to blow up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought
It
was
wasn't the coolest.
That was like a drill thing that happened. They went into. Okay, never mind. I don't want that. Get rid of that one. I'll
It wasn't my favorite.
take something else.
All right, Gonk. I can't see the new question. Let's see. Gunnar also says a good Legends book I think you guys would enjoy is Kenobi by John Jackson Miller. Might be my favorite Star Wars novel to date. Yeah, I have that one on a shelf at home. I don't think I've ever read it, but that's a Legends book. Pikachu.
Oh, yes.
Do you guys plan on covering Star Wars A New Dawn as it follows Kanan and Hera before Rebels, possibly after the Ahsoka novel? I mean, the plan is to try to get to everything. I know that was the first canon novel of the new canon.
Yeah.
Came out in 2014. I think it was meant to be in the Legends continuity, but it was close enough, much like Tarkin, close enough to be published into the new continuity and stick around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've heard of that one. I wouldn't mind doing that one.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Matt. Who is another major Legends villain you want to see make a comeback into the canon? Mara Jade.
Prince Sizor
Oh, Prince Sizor.
would be cool.
No, I'm sticking with Mara Jade.
Mara Jade.
Yeah.
It's I mean, you're right. I don't think of her as a villain.
Yeah, I know.
I haven't
but
for 20 years.
She starts that way,
She does.
right? Like that's
She's
how.
the hand of the Emperor.
Yeah, like so that's why I'm kind of like her.
Yeah.
Because like they don't have to stay a villain, you know.
Mhm.
So I'd go with that. But Prince Sizor is a pretty good one too.
I still have seen very, very, very little from Jedi Survivor, but I did see a thumbnail of a mod where someone turned cow into Mara Jade, and it looked pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. There's a part of me that's like, I wonder if I should play the Mara Jade version.
Yeah, right.
Because when Dark Forces came out, the Kyle Katarn Dark Forces 2, there was a not DLC, but there was like an expansion game called Mysteries of the Sith where you played as Mara Jade instead. It was pretty cool.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Prince Sizor is a good one. I don't know what other villains. If I was just gonna go with villains as a whole, I've never read it, but the stories I've heard about the Yuzeng Vong
Yuzeng Vong would be interesting.
sound really neat.
Yeah. Honestly,
But
the Grist kind of remind me in
I
a
think
way.
that's why I think of like
Yeah.
these buggy kind of characters, like
Yeah.
something that more organic-y is the Yuzeng Vong, and they come from outer rim past
Intergalactic.
Yeah, they're from way out there somewhere. So
Yeah. The Force ties the galaxy together. They're not from the galaxy, so
Yeah.
they don't touch the Force.
yeah. So it's just an interesting concept. I
Yeah.
like that. And the Grisk are kind of close, but not quite,
Mhm.
because they're still touching. That's why the Chiss have their
Yeah.
force powers, right?
Mhm.
They're still touching our galaxy.
Yeah.
So that's those are my list of like villains.
Okay.
But I also don't have a huge list of villains from Legends.
I mean, we can all say Knights of the Republic, Darth Malak, and Revan. And,
Sure, I'd say
like,
Revan
That stuff
then,
would
yeah.
be so cool,
Yeah.
obviously. But I don't know where it stands
Hopefully they
now.
still
I
do
know
that
Revan,
KOTOR game.
Revan is canon. I don't think Malak is,
No.
but
Revan's been mentioned. Bane has been involved.
Mhm.
But Malak, I don't think has ever been brought up in anything yet.
cool.
So, yeah. Garachi, do you think we will see Eli Vanto and the crew of Vigilant in Ahsoka series?
I mean, no, I don't. I hope.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much connective tissue there will be.
Sure.
I can hope and pray for a lot, but I'm kind of setting myself up for there to be none.
Mm-hmm.
So that any I get will be a blessing and not a morsel. Does that make sense?
No, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I also have my expectations set low on that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
just from things that I've seen already and whatnot,
Yeah.
from like trailers and whatnot. But
Well, and also, like, I don't want it, as cool as it can be, I want it to be accessible too. And I don't want people to be like, well, who's this guy? Like, oh, it's Eli Vanta. You got to read these books and you got to do this and this. Like, if it is done, it needs to be done in a way where everybody can enjoy it. It's just the book people can enjoy it more. And if
sure.
And if you can't do that, it might be a mistake to do it.
Well, the way of having Pelion
Yeah.
involved already
yeah.
didn't feel like it was like, well, you got to know a bunch of this. But he
Yeah.
also hasn't been in a lot of stuff, really.
Well, and also, like, he does kind of feel like he's an homage to
The old one.
the old Thrawn more than he is to the current canon Thrawn. Does that make sense?
I get what you mean, sure. I don't know.
Like,
I think
Dave
have...
is concerned about trying to make a new character for people to respond to, a new big bad villain for people to respond to. And he's using Thrawn, but he's got to add something to it. He's got to say something as an artist about what Thrawn is here, and that might not correlate exactly what we want as book readers.
I'm very curious on the route that we go with that. I'm hoping, I don't know. There's also more with the there's this series and then like the movie that's supposed to come out and everything too. So depending on what they do with that, maybe we'll get more or less of that. So, Chris Zagenhagel, who asked, any of you watch the Young Jedi Adventures yet? I've watched some of it with my kids. It's definitely got a younger feel to it, more so than like Resistance. This is like typically, I think, Ayla or maybe even younger. It has some of the bluey feel of things where it's trying to also make sure that you get a lesson out of each episode, right?
How long are they?
If I recall, like one of them has like 2 stories in it, kind of thing.
Okay.
So like it's like 2 12
like
10
Rugrats,
minutes. It's like a 10-minute episode.
stories.
Yeah. So like they're not like super long or anything. But like one of them is this Jedi is doing training and he dropped his lightsaber so he can get his lightsaber back or he can help his friend. It's like, well, I'll do both of them. It's like, well, sometimes you need to prioritize one thing over another, and it's trying to teach you a lesson on that. So
I think new ones came out.
I believe it did.
Yeah.
Last week maybe, but no, they're interesting. I don't imagine them being super important to the canon or anything, but I think that they're interesting stories too, especially if you have kids.
Yeah. And that was a super chat.
Super chat, thank you.
Yeah.
Never lose your nerd. Who also said, which also thank you for the super chat. Yes, Ahsoka, I've read about half of it and now need to finish it. Just finished Rebels again with my 8-year-old, and he loved it. Love you guys as always. Well, thank you. I'm glad you guys enjoyed Rebels. I've still been going through Star Wars with my kids and stuff too, and we're not through everything. It's been like going on 2 years now of us going through everything and whatnot.
Sure, I get you. But yeah, finish that other half, and we'll talk about it next month.
Ahsoka, yeah. I hope you've enjoyed so far what you've gotten through. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about that one. Just because Ahsoka's one of my favorite characters of Star Wars. So I definitely
and we'll be able to directly talk about any conflicts it has with Tales of the Jedi.
Sure, yeah.
Or Clone Wars or whatever.
Yeah, what kind of issues there are there. And then Caleb Diaz with another super chat who said, new canon or Legends? I prefer the new canon myself. So this is in response to our Legends talk that we had with all the silly stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's anything in the new canon where I feel like that is really ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like I remember us watching.
I'm sure there is. We just don't know about it yet.
It would be in books, I guess.
Because I don't go
right?
looking for it.
That's true. At least not book-wise.
Yeah.
As far as anything that we've watched or anything too, I haven't noticed things where I'm like, what the heck is this? So I definitely enjoy the new canon a lot, but I didn't dive as much deeply into Legends. So I don't have that nostalgic factor, right?
I have fond memories of Legends. I have great times that we've had so far with the new canon. I don't really feel the need to pick one or the other. I certainly know more Legends than I don't know new canon, right? I feel like there's so much more of canon that I need to catch up on. Whereas Legends, I got to the point where I was caught up with everything. There wasn't as much, coming out all the time.
Consistently.
I mean, Heir of the Empire was that's what brought You know,
That's
there
what brought it
was
back,
like
right?
Splinters of the Mind Eye and stuff, but like when that came back, I read that and I was like, oh my god, I got to read everything, and that list was much shorter than it is now.
Sure.
So, Legends had my full attention. I'm not saying that new canon doesn't. I just have less time. So,
Yep.
yeah.
I get that. Like back when you were a kid, and you could maybe spend more time reading.
I mean,
and
if
stuff,
it was
right?
summer and my mom was like taking me to the library during the day, and I would come home, do my chores, and then get in the pool and read until it got dark. Like that's what I would do to relax after, you know. And it was always a Star Wars book.
So, we still good on another question too? Yeah, we can get at least one more.
Yep.
I'll go with Oluchugu. Oluchugu. I don't know. When are you going to continue the High Republic? We don't have a set date on that. Hopefully, we will get through some of the comic books soon, but those will probably be videos on Wave Squadron. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel for when those pop up.
And I want to get back to it soon as
Sure.
we can. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. I have a in personal life, I have a play that I'm trying to prepare for. So actually doing Ahsoka now helps me a lot.
You'll be able to do a refresh, but you don't have to.
Yeah, I don't feel like I need to dive in as much as I do
Sure.
for newer books where I'm like, I don't know anything about this one. At least this one I've listened to already, so I'm kind of refreshing. So that'll help me be able to prepare for my play in September. But we definitely want to get into more High Republic and before we forget too much of it.
Like I wish I had more time just to like do 2 or 3 books a month, but like it feels like every time we do it, I'm finishing up the book the night before.
Sure.
Because
no, I get what you mean.
we had to do it in our free time, and our free time is when we're not doing regular Blind Wave and we're not streaming on Blind Wave, because usually our streams are easily even our free time, you know. So it can be really pretty tough.
Yeah. So it gets tight trying to fit everything in. I'd love to do more of it too, but we'll get back to them at some point here too.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping some of the comic book idea stuff that we have ends up working out, and you guys really enjoy that too. So.
Oh yeah. Me too.
Irish Nexus says the book kind of implies there's some kind of civil war coming for the Chiss ascendancy, and then Thrawn vanishes. I wonder how it's doing there.
I don't know. I mean, they vanish to the unknown regions, right? There's nothing saying that Ezra, the Purgle, and Thrawn didn't meet up with the Ascendancy.
Sure.
Or the war happened, and when he gets back, and there's nothing there, and all he has left is Ezra and the Purgle.
Yeah. Well, because that's what Vanya and I think one of the other the second site,
Navigators,
like navigators talk about, right? They come up to Eli and they're like, "Can we trust you?" kind of thing. And it's like, well, when Arlani's not here and Thrawn's not here, like we feel like we can trust them, but can we trust you? Because the Chiss, we don't know what Chiss we can trust, kind of thing. And I was like, well, this is weird. Okay, I thought they were just kind of like all like a tight knit group or something, you know, but they're not. So.
I mean, Thrawn doesn't really understand politics, but it doesn't seem to be the case for all Chiss.
Sure,
there's a lot of politics going on.
I'm really curious on how much like Chiss type of things we get involved into in future Thrawn stuff.
Me too.
Whether it's through series, movies, other books, or any of that.
I'm really curious how a live action Thrawn works in terms of like his presence, his face, you know. So much of like every time Thrawn like just notices people's face change and he's like, you know, I love it, but how do you do that in live action? You have to really let Lars Mikkelsen like play around with the idea that this guy can see things you can't.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Like and Chiss are just a little faster at comprehending things than you are.
Well, and they see in infrared or whatever, right? So they got like other things they can do that you can't.
I think that if you wanted to, you could really find a cool quirk of live action to make that work. And I hope that Lars gets the freedom to do some cool stuff in live action that he couldn't do just with his voice.
Yeah.
As a voice, you don't really get to choose what Thrawn does, right? What he looks like, how he moves. That's the animation. But here he has a lot more character control, which I'm excited for.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right, guys. I think that might be the last question we have.
Yeah.
It is 5 o'clock. As I said, the 7th of September will be our next Badonkagonk. We'll be covering the Ahsoka book. So make sure you guys check that out. Either read it, listen to it, whatever it is you do. And we'll be back here for that and talk about Ahsoka, which I'm really excited for. I've read this book so long ago, and I haven't got to talk to you about it at all.
Right? Watch Terminator Dark Fate.
Well, I know, right? Okay. All right. Well, guys, have a good weekend, and we will see you.